morning, my peoples. Good morning. Welcome to Twisted Tragedies, where we follow all the twists and turns wherever they lead. I am your host, Elise, and yes, I've had a rough 24 hours, so I apologize for being absent. So, Adelson's trial is this morning. This is me looking rough, all right? So don't judge me right now. We have... there was an emergency meeting yesterday. Well, a court hearing, I should say, on this exact case. And it was about Wendy Adelson and her wanting to quash the defense's subpoena, so that the defense basically couldn't ask her questions because the defense cannot offer her immunity. Okay? They cannot offer her immunity. So the argument was basically, hey, the defense can't offer her immunity on things. They can ask anything that has to do with impeachment. They can ask anything that has to do with things that the Commonwealth already brought up, things like that. So we're going to watch it real quick because, again, we're in jury selection right now, so they don't exactly show us jury selection. It's very hush-hush. I'll explain to you what jury selection is, what it's like in a minute. But this hearing happened yesterday, and it kind of just was quick and popped up. And as you guys know, I was not here. I was having a rough day, back and forth, doctors and whatnot. So real quick, let's watch the hearing because it's interesting how they argue it out so that Wendy doesn't have to be called up on subpoena by the defense.
Owen and Jackie Fulford for Mrs. Adelson.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. John William on behalf of the witness, Wendy Adelson, and my colleague, Matthew Lucas, with me as well.
Good afternoon. I have reviewed your motion, Mr. Loro, concerning the defense's subpoena as far as placing a statement on the record. I don't know if any of the parties have a position concerning you placing a statement on the record, but similar to the other trials in this matter, I do not have an issue if you do so prior to the testimony of your client. As to the placing the statement on the record, does the state have a position?
No objection, Your Honor.
Does the defense have a position?
No position, Your Honor.
Concerning placing a statement on the record, Mr. Loro, you will be permitted to do so, or another member of your firm, before your client testifies. As to the motion to quash the defense subpoena, does the state have a position?
No, Your Honor, no position.
Does the defense have a position?
Yes, Judge.
Go ahead.
May I stay here?
You may.
Judge, the issue here and the concern that we have on behalf of Mrs. Adelson is there have been two prior rulings in the homicide of Mr. Markel. One came from Judge Hankinson, and then another one came from Judge Wheeler. What Judge Hankinson ruled is that the immunity conferred by the state subpoena extended to cross-examination, and we believe that's an accurate statement of the law. However, Judge Wheeler limited cross-examination to only what the state brings forth on direct. This is a premature at this point, Judge. We have her under subpoena, and we may want to elicit testimony from her.
Well, before we get there on that point, when she's called as a state witness and she is cross-examined, she can be cross-examined on all matters raised by the direct and on matters of bias or impeachment or motive to lie. All matters that she can be cross-examined on pursuant to the rules of evidence extend under that state subpoena.
I understand that, Judge, but our issue is, suppose that she's one of the first witnesses to testify, and suppose after she testifies, other issues come up that we know if we called her, she could rebut what has been said. It's not necessarily would be something that she would need to invoke her rights. It could be a very simple issue, and we would need her testimony. So until we go through the trial to see what happens, it's impossible for us to say, yes, just cross-examining her on bias and credibility and whatever the state has asked about sounds good in the state's case until we hear further testimony and some issue arises.
I'll allow Mr. Loro to make his argument, but the crux of his motion is you cannot offer this witness any protection as it relates to you calling her in your case in chief. What is your response to the written argument on that matter?
Yes, Your Honor.
Hold on, Mr. Loro. I'm going to allow Ms. Fulford.
I'm sorry. I thought you were asking me. I'm sorry, sir.
You can make your argument in just a moment.
Yeah, so the issue as to immunity, we cannot confer immunity to her, Judge. We agree with that. We can't. But there may be other issues where she could testify to something that she's not taking a chance, if you will, that she's going to say something that could be used against her in the future. There could be other matters that are raised in the trial that we simply want to get testimony from her as. She is the daughter of our client.
From the perspective of your client, I certainly understand the argument you're making. Mr. Lauro, you may argue.
Yes, Your Honor, this issue was addressed by Judge Wheeler in the second McDaniel trial. It was also decided upon by the first DCA in July 2025, when the DCA ruled that the procedure used by Judge Wheeler was entirely correct, and the subpoena in that case was quashed. It was the same issue that the defense raised, where they wanted to cross-examine my client pursuant to a defense subpoena, which conferred no immunity at all on Ms. Adelson. I indicated
Please,
to the
guy,
court
put your
then,
face away
as I
from the
will
mic.
now, that Ms. Adelson will assert her Fifth Amendment rights with respect to any relevant question asked by the defense. So the only result of the defense procedure would be to have the client's daughter take the stand and invoke the Fifth Amendment in front of the jury. And that the court decided by Judge Wheeler that that would be inappropriate. And we would ask the court now to follow the same procedure as Judge Wheeler and follow the same procedure that was upheld by the first DCA just 1 month ago.
Does the defense have any remaining argument on this matter?
Your Honor, respectfully, the issue that was ruled on or concerning the subpoena, quashing the subpoena, Ms. McDaniel did not make that argument below. She did not join the state's motion. So the first DCA did not rule that Judge Wheeler followed the proper procedure. My understanding is that the first DCA held that she had not preserved the argument.
And if I could add one thing further,
We don't have tag team motions. Who's going to finish the argument?
One person has to finish the motion, dude.
Just a moment, Your Honor. Your Honor, factually, we're in a vastly different circumstance. Our client certainly has information, knows information about her daughter that Ms. McDaniel would not have ever been able to know. And so it's our position that it's premature. The Fifth Amendment question, the courts have ruled should be done on a question-by-question basis.
So your expectation is for me to ask the question, she will make some sort of signal, I'm invoking, the juries to be removed, and then we do this for the entire defense direct?
No, Your Honor. What I would suggest is that if we get into this posture, and absolutely cross-examination may be sufficient, but if we get into the posture of needing additional, I would suggest that potentially proffering the questions, and then she and her counsel can advise the court if she intends to invoke her privilege at that time.
Mr. Lauro, last word, and then I will rule.
Yes, Your Honor, the statement by counsel is patently incorrect and false. This issue was raised by Ms. Carras in the McDaniel trial. She preserved the issue. She made the same arguments that these defense lawyers are making now. It was wholly rejected by Judge Wheeler and wholly rejected by the first DCA. And we respectfully request that Your Honor follow that ruling here. There's simply no question that the defense could ask that is relevant to this matter.
Autocorrect is a
Ms.
bitch.
Adelson, my client, would answer. She's invoking her Fifth Amendment.
All right, having reviewed the applicable authority on this issue and also reviewed the prior transcripts on this matter that were also ruled on by Judge Wheeler concerning this same subject, I am going to adopt a similar ruling. The defense cannot give the witness immunity as it relates to any matters in which she would testify under and could properly invoke the Fifth Amendment privilege. No witness can be called to the stand simply to invoke the Fifth Amendment, as there would be no basis for this witness to take the stand and give testimony on a relevant matter, and also could not affect her ability to also endanger her own Fifth Amendment right I am going to grant the relief that is requested. If we need to revisit this issue for any purpose where the defense believes there is a line of questioning.
Okay, the judge there quashing that subpoena. So
The judge did quash the subpoena, but he did leave it open-ended. Because they didn't play the rest of it, but if at some point Adelson's attorneys think that there's a line of questioning that, needs to be asked of her, of Wendy Adelson, that she's not going to invoke her Fifth Amendment right, then they can revisit it again with the judge. So if you're not familiar with this case, okay, Donna Adelson is the mother of Wendy Adelson, whose ex-husband, Dan Markel, was murdered. Her son, Charlie Adelson, has already been found guilty of that conspiracy to kill Dan Markel, and he is in jail. So that's weird. Anybody else dealing with that problem? Chat window's out of alignment with the stream window. That's strange. That is weird. But so basically, Donna Adelson, Wendy's mom, and her son, at the very least, the son, Charlie Adelson, conspired and hired people to kill Dan Markel, basically so they could have Wendy and the kids back with them. They're a family of money. Shocker, right? Shocker. A family of money who thought they could do anything they wanted. I knew. But that is sort of the crux of all of this. Charlie he already had his trial, and he is now in jail for life. He was found guilty on his charges. And it raises the question of, why would Wendy need to plead the fifth for anything? If she, in fact, knew nothing of this, okay, and was not involved, why would she need to plead the fifth on anything? Why does she need immunity from the DA's office anyway? For anything at all? I'm having a hard time understanding why she would need immunity for anything. I'll leave that up to you guys to decide why the hell. I mean, there's two things I can think of. Either she knew some shit that she clearly, no, she got immunity. She got at least limited immunity from the DA's office on the questioning. It's that the defense cannot give her immunity. They're not the DA's office. They can't give her immunity. So the subpoena was from the defense. They wanted to call her as their witness as well, instead of just on cross-examination. And the judge was like, no, because you can't offer her immunity. And if we get into, she can't invoke her Fifth Amendment to the defense. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's getting into, she'd have to answer questions if she's there on a subpoena. There's no thing to protect her of her own right to incrimination. So the judge is like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. You can do what we already decided with the DA's office, who offered her that at least limited immunity on certain things. If I'm Wendy Adelson, though, why do I need immunity? Why would I invoke my Fifth Amendment on anything? I can think of two reasons. One is that she feels that the DA's office has gone after her family and thinks they could just come up with pretty much anything to charge her. And she's afraid of that because she is an attorney. She knows these games. Okay. Or she has something to hide. Those are the only two options, realistically. Okay. It's just really that simple, I think that's part of it is she definitely knows that they're wanting to charge her because, I mean, look, they went after each family member. I don't know what they're going to do with the dad at this point, but I mean, he wouldn't be going with Donna, right, to Vietnam, of a non-extraditable place, unless he knew something, right? So seems like, I mean, if I was her, of course, that's the smartest thing, is to get immunity. But geez Louise. Oh yeah, we know that. I mean, I think a lot of people aren't shy about letting them know that they think that she's involved in some way, shape, or form in the conspiracy to kill her ex-husband, Dan Markel, but of course we've seen no evidence yet of that. So that's where it gets interesting. That's where it gets interesting. That's where we get to the point of this trial where it's like, what are we going to hear? What are we going to hear that might lend itself to the idea that she knew something or was involved in some way? Or will we hear nothing again? Really? I don't know. But at this point, I mean, it bugs me that we're dealing with multiple, and this is, case after case of families who have money, right? That just think they can just get away with it. No problem, right? They can do whatever they want. That's the other thing, right? I want to see what's in the devices. Hey, girl. I know. I don't know how good. Tell us. Girl, tell us, because I don't know how anybody can do that. I am not sure. Sorry, I forgot to put my phone on silent. That's my bad. That is my bad. Yeah, girl, tell us. I mean, that's the thing. It's going to be interesting. What's on her devices? What's on the devices? What is on the frickin' devices? What did they find on the devices? So let me hold on. Let's go back here for a second. Because this is, now let's see. See, this is the Tampa. So here's the weird thing, right? Tallahassee Democrat has it up, right? What's really weird to me, right, if I go, is that I don't see anything under Court TV. It's weird. Law and crime trials. Like, weird. It's strange. Everyone is streaming this. But it's like, why? I'm not understanding why. Why is this the only channel? It's really weird. I mean, again, it's a jury selection, so there's not going to be much to do, right? Until they come back and say, hey, yeah, we got a jury, y'all. We got that. We did that. Really the good part of it is when they're done, obviously, with jury selection. And here's how jury selection works, right? When they get a jury, they get, they call in months ahead of time a bunch of people, however many they think. Francesca's telling us how to change your name back to your name and not your handle for whatever reason. YouTube decided to do that. It says click on your profile picture and use the edit pen. You can change your name. Well, there you go. Right? Yeah, see, that's what I want to see. I want to see some group voir dire. Like, that would be ideal to see some stuff like that in a case like this. But so they get in for jury selection, right? They call in a bunch of people. Hold on. They call in a bunch of people ahead of time, months ahead of time, as many as they think need to be there, right? So they get these people in and they decide between the defense and the Commonwealth what are sort of proper questions to ask these people to weed out people with a bias or people with certain, I guess, certain ways of thinking. And so they come together to figure out what questions are going to be all right to ask, right? The judge pretty much looks at them and goes, okay, great, wonderful, and decides. And so then at that point, they have a certain amount of what they call strikes, right? So for instance, say the state finds a juror and they're like, this juror, we're going to pick this juror, right? And the defense is like, you know what? We don't like that juror's face. We're going to use a strike on that juror. Well, then that juror is not picked. There is a strike used on that juror. Now, they have a certain amount of strikes. It's usually 12. Every state is different. They have a certain amount of strikes, regular ones, and then a certain amount of like ones for any, so basically if they can prove somebody has a bias, that you use that strike for any reason, you don't have to use your regular 12 strikes. So, or if things like if they know the judge or one of the DA, you know what I'm saying, that you wouldn't have to use the strike for that. That would be something that would be struck anyway. So no, it is not about children, other than Wendy having children. That's about it. Well, that's the thing, right? That a lot of these people are tools, right? And it's like the money can't buy you the truth. So you can spend as much as humanly possible, but you can't change the facts. You just cannot. You cannot change the facts of a case. You cannot change the evidence of a case. So you can spend $7 million on representation and PR schemes and pretty much whatever you want, but that's not going to make you innocent. Even if you're found not guilty, it doesn't make you innocent. You forever have to live with the notion, okay, that you are a murderer, right? So even if you are found not guilty and you spend millions of dollars on your PR scheme and your lawyers or whatever, you live every single day knowing that you are a murderer every single day. And you live every single day knowing that a lot of other people know that you're a murderer too. And that's going to make for a very difficult life. Even if you have a fan club of people, that fan club, Ask OJ, starts to dwindle after time, right? Gets lower and lower and lower and lower until people start to realize, holy shit, they were not who we thought they were. Over time, it starts to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. Oh boy. He's allowed in the individual room, and 2 of the first 3 jurors said Donna is guilty. Oh boy. That's wonderful. You know, I think they already asked for a change of venue, and the judge said no, as far as I understand. So I don't think she's going to get one, even if she asks for it. I mean, we had the same thing happen here, and they did not do what we thought they would do, which is change the venue, or maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe at that point, are you even going to take the jury and decide that you're going to sequester them? No, Massachusetts says we don't need to sequester a jury. There is a reason sequestration for a jury exists, and courts don't like to use it, but there's a reason that tool is in the toolbox. There is a reason, okay? There is a whole ass reason why that is there. It's there so that juries don't get tainted by outside influence, right? Use the sequestration when it warrants it. States hate using it. You know, they use the, oftentimes use the excuse that, well, it's taking away people's rights. They agreed to it when they decided they were going to serve on the jury. They could have said it was a hardship, one of many other things. They could have been asked, to not have to serve. But that's just not an excuse for me. There's a reason why it exists in a legal realm to keep the jury safe from outside influence. Okay. Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, I mean, that might not happen, but it might. I mean, you never know. There might be older people in there that don't really pay attention to this kind of stuff, or even younger people that don't pay attention to this kind of stuff. And maybe they know nothing about this lady. I could tell you a lot of people who know nothing about this lady. And I get it's more saturated where it happened and where she lives, but yeah, it needed to change venue and sequestration. 100% it did. 100%. 100,000 million kabillion. It did. And that's on the court. But what really gets me is you can't go back. There's no going back. They make that mistake in the beginning. You can't go back and be like, well, we should have. So it's better to just do it than to later on be like, well, we should have. Just do it. Just freaking do it. You sure thing. It just doesn't make sense to me. It just really, really doesn't. Hold on a second, guys. I got to grab my coffee. By the way, it is my niece's first birthday today, in case anybody wanted to know. She is a whole 1 today. And it's funny because, I mean, what are the odds, right? My mom's birthday is tomorrow. And my sister, you guys are going to love this. She has 2 kids, son and a daughter. And my nephew, he was born one day after my dad's birthday. Now, most of you know my dad, who raised me, who I called dad since the time I was 4, passed away of suicide. He's actually in this necklace right here. I have his ashes, and it's a cross. And my dad had a really chunky cross that he wore like this. And he was a musician. He played the drums. And so when I found this one specifically, you guys can't see it, but there's a little set of drums etched on the front of this. And it was just absolutely perfect when I found it to hold ashes. And the chain had broken. And my friend Kara got me a new chain for Christmas to put my dad's ashes on. So here he is. I keep him with me all the time. But my nephew was born one day. My dad's birthday was January 31st. And my nephew was born February 1st. And then my sister had her daughter last year. And her birthday is today, which is the 19th. And my mother's birthday is the 20th. So my sister had her 2 children a day before and a day after her parents' birthdays. What are the freaking odds? And to throw the extra kicker in there, my sister-in-law, who was pregnant at the same time as my sister-in-law had my nephew on my husband's dad's birthday. So on her dad's birthday, she had my nephew Wyatt. So I mean, what are the freaking odds? Honestly, like, what are the odds? What are the freaking odds? Well, happy birthday. Lots of birthdays. Happy birthday. But yes, it's Elena's first birthday. She is 1 today. So happy birthday to my niece, Elena. Happy freaking birthday, kid. All my kids' birthdays are within 3 weeks of my birthdays and Christmas and Thanksgiving. So fun. So fun. Not. Interesting. The assistant for the judge. Where is that? Do we know where that is? She is a little snuggle bug. Yes, please. In the Discord, I'll pull it up for you guys. Because this is what it's going to look like. Let's make something clear here. They're in jury selection. So it's not going to be exciting that's going to happen today, really, other than them trying to find a jury. I suspect it'll take couple days maybe to find a jury in this. So the real action doesn't start until the trial itself actually starts. This is just jury selection. So in the meantime, we're kind of just waiting, right? We're kind of waiting. Now, if you're new here, welcome. You will find that we oftentimes go over a bunch of cases. I oftentimes will do cases that people don't really pay attention to or don't know about, because everybody deserves the same level of exposure, especially when it comes to missing persons. There is a missing 17-year-old, 18-year-old. So everybody is, some people are saying she's 17, some people are saying she's 18. She's pregnant. She's 3 months pregnant. She is missing from Rehoboth, Massachusetts, and she has not been found yet. Very close to home. Not okay. So, I feel like these are just the things that, like, us creators should be putting a bigger audience on. Because if it was your loved one, would you want someone to pay attention? Or would you, go around to every YouTuber on planet Earth and say, please, 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 and nobody listens and nobody helps? Because I've seen that happen, Oh, he gets lots of ice cream, Holly. Lots of ice cream. Gets lots of ice cream. If he gets his tonsils out, he gets lots of ice cream. That's the rule, Holly. That's the rule. Ice cream for the kid with the tonsils out. I never had my tonsils out, so I didn't get that special fun time of getting my ice cream with tonsils out. Kind of changes your voice too after you get your tonsils out, which, fun fact, most people didn't know. That's a whole nother, oof, that one gets me. Here, as a matter of fact, okay, let's see. The mother's story is being questioned. Okay, that's an advocacy group withdrew a $5,000 reward offer, citing concerns over inconsistencies in case details. His name was Emmanuel, yeah. Body cam footage shows a mother with blood on her hands as police arrest her for allegedly killing her young son. This was the lady's, the 11-year-old son. I remember that one. But so authorities are questioning an account of a California mother and the disappearance of her 7-month-old son after discrepancies surfaced in her statements to investigators. On Saturday, August 16th, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department announced that inconsistencies emerged in the account given by Emmanuel's mother, Rebecca Harrow, about the alleged abduction on August 14th. That is sus. Multiple individuals, including the child's parents, Jake and Rebecca Harrow, were interviewed. During questioning, inconsistencies were noted in Rebecca's original statement, after which she chose not to continue the interview. Due to these developments, investigators say they're unable to rule out the possibility of foul play in his disappearance. This is the kid. They're saying his parents aren't cooperating anymore. They were, now they're not. Although I go back to this one case in my head where I think about this one case that I remember. I can't even remember the name of the damn case. Maybe one of you guys will remember it, but this one case where they were looking at the parents, and so they spent all of this time trying to say it was the parents, when in reality it had nothing to do with the parents. And so all of that time went to trying to find evidence that the parents did it instead of finding the kid and finding, evidence that actual evidence that led them to someone else. Really sad. But I think about if I was those parents and they kept coming after me and I know I did nothing wrong, I'd probably end the damn interview too. I'd probably not cooperate anymore either, because if I'm not cooperating with you anymore, you can't keep trying to pin it on me. You actually have to go follow the evidence. They don't have to, because a lot of times they'll make it fit into what they want it to fit into. I've seen that too. But at the same time, you have to at least follow what evidence you're finding, right? Digital forensics, things like that. They don't just magically appear. They're there, right? So if I'm in that situation, I'm ending it too. Sorry, you're not interviewing me. I'm done. Find my child. Okay? You're wasting precious time. Find my kid. Like, I can't remember the name of it. I don't think it's the summer one. I can't remember the frickin' name. It's sad. Listen, I have a kid with severe disability. Okay? She's one in less than 200 on planet Earth. Not just in the United States, on planet Earth. Okay? Less than 200 on planet Earth have my kid's disease. And it is horrible. It is awful. And, a lot of the times people can't hack dealing with it. Her biological father was my abuser. So make no mistake, he chose to do nothing and continues to this day, even as old as she is at this point, still continues to do nothing. So can't remember the name either, but I'd stop too. Sorry, go find my child. Stop trying to pin it on people who didn't do it. Go find the people who did. Although, again, inconsistencies don't necessarily equal guilt. Let's remember that. I've seen plenty of cases where the cops are like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. It just, that sounds wild. It doesn't make sense. And in reality, that's exactly what happened. Does anybody remember the wetsuit guy? Anybody remember the wetsuit guy? The guy that broke into the couple's house in a wetsuit and put goggles over their face and took the wife. Does anybody remember that? And they tried to pin it on the boyfriend. And then when the girlfriend ultimately popped up and was found, they tried to say it was a hoax. And then they ended up arresting the guy later on that did it. That's a great case of it, Oh God, I don't even want to know. don't even want to know. I can't. When people do this stuff to, yeah, maybe it is a movie now. I don't know. Was that not a wild case? Maybe I can show you guys some of that, because if you've never heard of the case that I'm talking about, you might want to get familiar with it, because what the cops did in that case was deplorable. Like, really, it was. You know, it sounded too wild for them to actually look into it. And it's like, that's how bias happens, right? That's how bias happens. That's exactly how it happens. So the mother reported apparently with this child being attacked outside a retail store. Canine scent tracking dogs were deployed, but the child's not located. No suspect information was available. Reported kidnapping of a 7-month-old after the child's mother reported being attacked outside a retail store. So they're not saying what's inconsistent, though. She said she had taken her children to football practice with her husband before stopping at a Big Five sporting goods store to buy a mouth guard. She claimed she realized he needed a diaper change when someone said hola to her, after which everything went blank. I don't even know what that means. She told a reporter she searched her car, ran inside. Did she get hit in the head? Like, what does going blank mean? Like, what? One question further, investigators said her statements contained significant inconsistencies. What I have a problem with is, if you guys remember the Karen Reed case, you will remember the cult saying, that's inconsistent. Jen McCabe or Allie McCabe, that's inconsistent with what they said last time. Simply because they used different words to describe something that happened. Instead of using the same exact word, they used the same description word, but a different word to describe the exact same thing. And so they call that inconsistencies. Make no mistake, when I say cops will do that same thing, okay, they'll say it's inconsistent because you said this, this, and this. And it's like, no, I'm telling you that happened after this happened, right? And so they'll then call that an inconsistency. And it's like, then don't interview people when they're panicked, when they're trying to give you all the information all at once that they can remember right now. Because then if you interview people when they're panicked like that, and then when they finally calm down a little, they start recalling more and more and more, and you're going to say it's inconsistent. I've seen it happen a million times. It's definitely not that crazy of a story. It's happened before. It has. And to be fair, how many times has one of us moms changed your kid right there in the car because your kid needed a diaper change after you came back from the store and you went to go put them in the seat, and you're like, how are you a squishy butt already? And you're like, well, no, I got to change you now. As a parent, we've all done that. We have all done that. Okay. As a matter of fact, my sister did that yesterday with my niece. Like, oh, all right, squishy butt needs to be changed. Like, you know, well, all I keep hearing is that it went blank. I didn't hear anything about being knocked unconscious. So it's weird that I just keep hearing blank. Ola, that's it. That's all she heard. She had the black eye days before the event. Same story, days before that black eye. Well, if you're hit in the back of the head, I'm pretty sure you don't get hit in the front of the face where there would be a black eye. So, I mean, maybe she did have a black eye already. I don't know. You know, who knows? Yes, that's it. All right, hold on. Let me see if I can find this for you guys. You guys are going to be like, what? Hold on. Let's see. You guys are going to be like, what? Hold on. All right, maybe I've never seen the trailer on this. It's 2 minutes long, so I'll see if it's any good to show you guys.
Emergency.
My girlfriend and me got kidnapped last night.
And you didn't call last night when this occurred.
I was tied up.
He was tied up.
Tell me what happened.
I wake up, bright light blinding us, taser goes off, and I see they're wearing wetsuits.
What did they swim in? So what
Did
happens
the
next?
swim in?
Then asked me to tie my hands behind my back.
Did she discover something?
John text messages.
Is she mad? Oh, she's cheating? There's blood in your house.
Do you know where she is?
I didn't do anything. Yeah, you did.
Oh my God, it's her.
I just got a message. She's walking over to my house.
I've never heard of a case where the kidnappers dropped their victim at the front door of their house.
But he did.
We thought she's this innocent victim. She looks more like a suspect.
Police now wondering, is Huskins a real-life Gone Girl?
Something else has happened here. Maybe this is about revenge.
We find zip ties, toy guns, and a blow-up doll.
Can this get any stranger?
Who's really behind all of this? And they get an email confessing to the crime. Did we all get this wrong?
You did. Now you got to look into the other bits of the case. They solved it. The cops already solved it. They found the guy. The guy had no connection to either one of them, and he had done it to another couple, and they found her hair later on. This was way later on. They found Huskins's hair connected to one of the goggles that he had blacked out in his house. One of her hairs was in the goggles. No, this was that's a different case. But this is a couple. This was a couple. This is a completely different case. I know which one you're talking about, but that's a different one. That was like an ex-boyfriend or something. This guy had no connection to this couple at all. Literally at all. And he had then tried to do the same thing to another couple. They found his wetsuit. So, like, the cops were like, a guy in a wetsuit? What did he do? Swim? Yeah, that was Sherry Papini. Yeah, that was a different case. But the cops got it wrong. It's really that simple. They got it wrong. They heard wetsuit and they went, well, that makes no sense. There's no freaking water anywhere. Where they swim in to kidnap you. And he was actually tied up until he got out of his things. He was drugged, by the way. She was drugged, that guy did drop her off. Okay. So meanwhile, they're telling the truth about everything. And the cops are going, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. No shit, it makes no sense. Do you think they can make sense of it? They're trying to get you to help them solve this crime of somebody who came to kidnap them and harm them. And the cops are going, it makes no sense. No shit, it makes no sense. A madman isn't going to make sense. But oftentimes you will see some of that with cops where they'll say, well, that doesn't make sense. That sounds too far-fetched. Doesn't mean it's not the truth. Just because it sounds wild doesn't mean it isn't true. Right? Listen, I remember one specific case on the cops kept saying, like, scientifically they couldn't recreate X, Y, or Z, right? And the defense expert went out and did the thing like 25 times or something and recreated it one out of those 25 times. But so basically to say it can't be recreated, that's the Commonwealth said, can't be recreated. And then have the defense, they videoed the whole thing. It was recreated. So just because it's not likely doesn't mean it didn't happen. Right? Like, right. What would be their purpose to do it as a hoax? Not only is there no incentive, people called them all sorts of names for years and years and years. Thankfully, they are now happily married with children. But this will affect them forever. Forever. They'll probably never trust the police or law enforcement ever again. And I don't blame them. Would you? I mean, look at what happened to them, Oh yeah, of course. That they're going to say that. But I mean, if that's something you haven't watched, it's definitely something you should watch for sure and look into, because that case is just crazy. This was them at CrimeCon, I believe.
Nikki Egan.
This is them at CrimeCon 2021, yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here so early on a Saturday morning. We really appreciate it. I'm Nikki Egan, in case you couldn't figure that out.
Which is why it was so
Denise
easy
Marin,
for
and
people
we
to
wrote the
believe
book,
that
Victim
Karen
F
was set up.
together, and it's out Tuesday.
Why
But
it
we
was
have
so
copies
easy
here. There'll
for
be a
people
meet and greet afterward
believe.
with a signing. So if you're interested, you can buy one afterward, and we'll sign it. But we're hoping to just sort of introduce you to what happened that night and who Denise and Aaron are. And we will open it up to questions from the audience after we sort of go through our talk. So I just wanted to have Denise and Aaron. So Denise, tell me how you ended up in Vallejo. Like, what were you doing for a profession? Oh, sorry, we're going to do Aaron first. Aaron, how did you end up in Vallejo, and when did you move there? And what were you doing for a living?
Yeah, so I'm a physical therapist. We're actually both physical therapists, and I ended up in Vallejo because there's a postgraduate residency program there, and it works with a neurological rehab. So people have suffered strokes, brain injuries, or spinal cord injuries. Primarily is the patient population we worked with. And I was fortunate enough to do this residency that gets therapists from around the world to train there. And after I finished the program, I was able to be hired on as staff. And so I ended up staying in Vallejo. And that's why I purchased a house on Mare Island, which is part of the city of Vallejo.
She was kidnapped. They were both tied up. So the perpetrator took her and left him,
2010,
still tied up and drugged.
And then Denise came in 2014.
Right. So I moved to Vallejo in June 2014 for this 9-month physical therapy residency. I'd worked for a couple of years after I graduated with a doctorate in physical therapy. And that's where we met. We were colleagues, and we were initially drawn together by our shared passion and love for physical therapy. And we ended up talking a lot at social gatherings.
She's so much older now, but she's still very pretty.
There's just an instant connection, and we started hanging out more and developed a relationship.
And fell in love. But, you know, Aaron had just, he was sort of in a breakup period had broken up with his ex-fiance, but they were still living in the same house in different rooms. So that was like, he was falling in love with you, but he still wasn't done with that. So I know for the next few months it was back and forth, but you guys, you know, were back together the night of March 22nd, 2015, and things were good. I mean, Aaron has talked about how he fell in love.
Imagine how many people weren't believed.
Hard unraveling himself from this other relationship. So, so you came over there that night.
Back to that.
And do you want to?
Documentary I told you guys to watch.
And then
started with the woman they didn't
tell us
believe.
what happened.
Like Nikki was saying,
sorry,
you know, Aaron was having some difficulties really detaching from that former relationship. But that night was definitely a turning point, and we got to a really good place. It was an emotional evening, and we went to bed around midnight and just fell into a deep sleep. And the next thing I know, I'm hearing this unknown man's voice, just kind of relentlessly repeating phrases over and over. And at first I just felt like I was in a nightmare and I wanted to wake up from it, but my body wasn't letting me wake up because
I have cameras. Same.
Subconscious knew
all over
reality
the property.
Of the situation. And eventually my eyes shot open and I just froze. And saw this flashing white light on the wall, and just
you are right, Lisa.
Multiple red laser dots crossing the wall, and they disappear as they crossed over our bodies. And this voice said, "Wake up! This is a robbery. We're not here to hurt you." And instantly, I knew. I mean, we were surrounded. There was people there with guns facing us, and you know. The next thing I know, he's just telling me that I'm going to tie up Aaron. He's going to drop zip ties at the end of the bed, and Aaron's going to have his ties. I was going to tie Aaron's hands behind his back, his feet together, and then told me to go to the closet where I was then bound and blindfolded with those blacked out swim goggles. He helped Aaron hop over to the closet where he was blindfolded, and then we were given recordings with pre-recorded instructions with this really odd, like wind chime like music. So it was soothing, but in just the most terrifying,
horrifying way.
situation. And each step of the evening or each moment, I just realized that how planned this was. I mean, this wasn't just some random break-in. Before he had me tie up Aaron, he said Aaron's name. And so it just felt like something out of just an awful movie.
He had stalked them for a bit.
And initially in the recordings, they said that, again, it was going to be a robbery. We were given a sedative, and we could hear people downstairs from opposite ends of the house while this man who spoke was with us. And first thought, okay, it's just going to be a robbery. They're going to clear
They thought there
stuff
was multiple
out
people in the
and
house.
be drugged, and in the morning we'll somehow wake up and we'll be fine. But I was then moved eventually downstairs when this man came down and said, "We have a problem. This wasn't
They caught
for
him
you. This
way
was meant
after."
for," and he named Aaron's ex-fiance by her first and last name. And I mean, I couldn't imagine why this happened or was designed for anyone, and had hoped maybe they would just leave. But he then told me that they would take me for 48 hours and I'd be held, and Aaron would have to complete some tasks. And eventually I was put in Aaron's trunk and driven for a little, maybe 20 minutes or so, and transferred to another trunk, and then held at a location hours away for the next 48 hours, where I was continuously drugged and then raped twice.
Yes, and then Aaron, talk about, like, once you two were separated, what was going on with you, because you were also given very specific instructions for the kidnapping, and they said they'd be watching you. They said they had surveillance software on their phones. They heard drilling when they were upstairs, and the kidnappers had installed a camera up in the corner of Aaron's living room, and they said they would be monitoring what he did to make sure that he didn't call police, but he had a decision.
Matthew Mueller was the perp that they caught later
whether
on.
or not to do that once you woke up from, after being drugged.
Yeah, so during that time, Denise and I were separated in my house.
Right.
The kidnappers gave me a long instructions through recorded messages. The kidnapper also asked me if my ex and Denise looked alike, which I said, yes, they both have long blonde hair. And he repeated that it was intended for my ex-fiance, who would like to know that she was having an affair. That's why our relationship broke up.
Yeah.
And then they said they forced me to give up my social security number, my bank account numbers, access to all my emails, to my phone. And they were putting monitoring software on my phone. So if I called anyone,
really happened.
They would hurt Denise. If I called the police, they would kill Denise. And they had installed a camera in my house, and they said they were going to make my home my prison. And if I needed to stay within
that's the question.
The camera's viewpoint, and if I left, they would.
Fame. Well, they don't want to be famous for that. Nobody wants to be famous
for
a hoax.
This red tape all over, like, the downstairs of his house. He wasn't supposed to go beyond it. And yes, that's an important point to make. Aaron and his ex-fiance had broken up because he found out she was cheating on him with a cop in a neighboring area. And we're not sure if that's all connected to this somehow, but we talk about it in the book because there's a lot of unanswered questions
it's my niece's
about why
first
she was
birthday. Happy
targeted.
first
But they had
birthday
been
to Allie's
surveilling Aaron for
grandson.
months, unbeknownst to him.
I love that.
Then these recordings had his ex-fiance's name in it. And so it was like Aaron, and we don't say her name for obviously legal reasons, but they had used a drone to spy on them. The one kidnapper who had Denise tells them that just a week prior, they had been at the door to his master bedroom and were going to enter the room, but there were police on the island, so they backed away.
They didn't have money.
But this was all, they had been, Aaron's security system. Tell a little bit about that, some of the things you've been noticing, but you didn't really put together till later.
Yeah, probably about 6 months before the actual home invasion, my security system started kind of acting up, and wouldn't set or would go off, and then I would call, and I kept on trying to troubleshoot it, and nothing seemed to change, but the security system wasn't working. I actually even tried to set it that night, and kept on repeating that it wouldn't actually set. And even the week before, I was having this feeling of like paranoia. I actually had told my mom, I was like, I think someone's watching me, because I kept on catching this like glare. I'll back up. My house has open space behind it, and I was catching this glare almost like from a lens or a watch up on a hill that would be able to, if you had put a camera, you could view down into my house. And I just kind of blew that off a little bit, or rationalized that. Why would anybody be watching a 30-year-old who lives by himself? I'm not that
A home invasion when someone's home.
And even the months leading up to, I would come home from work and I would feel like something had moved to my house or someone had been in there. It felt disturbed, but I would go through and there was nothing missing. But I had this feeling like someone's been in here. And then again, I just would rationalize that away. And
of course,
then when the home invasion happened, I woke up, I was like, every paranoia thing was justified. So the kidnappers had created this constraints to me, like I can't call because they can see what my phone, I can't get out of the camera's view. But as the kidnappers had brought us, or one of the kidnappers brought me down to my living area where I needed to stay for 48 hours, the camera that was installed was making this like dung, like this electric dung, dung, dung sound. I remember I asked him, like, is it going to do that the entire time? Because I just realized, like, right when I heard it, I was like, that will drive me insane. If I have to listen to this for the next 48 hours, I'm already at like my wit's end. And he told me that they weren't able to access my router, so they had to upload it through the Wi-Fi, and it should be loaded by the morning and stop that sound. So I had, not the best move. They had given us sedatives, so when they took Denise, I tried to stay awake, and I couldn't. The sedatives took over, and I passed out, and I ended up eventually being able to stay awake until about 11. It took me about 11:30 to where I could actually have my eyes stay open. And then I started receiving text messages and emails from the kidnappers giving me instructions for payment. But that camera still made the dung, dung, dung sound.
Annoying.
And at that point, after a few exchanges,
well, he's in jail, so
the kidnappers said they were gonna. I would pay the money. I would pay the money Tuesday night. They would give Denise back Wednesday morning, and I started thinking, like,
most of us
how
know what
can I
that's
trust
like.
these guys? If I show up with the money, these don't take both of us and kill us.
Yeah, he had other
there's
victims.
No witnesses. And so I was trying to weigh my options. The camera kept on making that noise, and I realized that they probably can't actually see me because it's most likely not fully loaded at this point. And so I made a calculated risk to call my brother, and my brother is an FBI special agent.
Well, then, it's the first time I heard that.
He tells me that I need to call 911 because we need to get the full force of law enforcement to find Denise. And
would have had him do it.
And I agreed with him. And so I took the phone. I put in 911. And right before I hit the call button, I just remember thinking this is like, sorry. It was the hardest decision in my life because I knew if the police came, I was going to be okay. But the kidnapper saw the call that could hurt potentially would kill Denise. And I wasn't sure if I was just making the most selfish decision because they were asking for an amount of money that I could pay. And obviously I would pay any amount to get her back. But they asked for an amount that I could easily access. So for me, it's like, why am I doing this if I can? But again, you can't trust people who break into your home, plan like this, and maybe everything the kind of gentleman way of they're doing this home invasion. Maybe it's just a ploy to do this and then attack.
And then they hurt her anyway.
So I called 911. The cops came, and their first question, or one of their first questions, were, "Are you on drugs?" And I said, "Yes, the kidnappers drugged me."
Sedative.
And then they repeatedly asked, "Have you been partying?"
No.
And I said, "No." And they kept on asking, and everything was more just accusatory to me, and not really any questions about actually what happened. Eventually,
does,
it kind of
right?
softened. I
Sunshine
go to
raised?
the police station to give a statement.
Way back.
Yeah.
But one of the first things they did, right, was they went up,
Oh, yeah.
tell them about the camera, what they did to them.
So they
This is
walk
one of
in-
the first things the cops did when they show up.
They clear upstairs, they walk into the living room, that dung, dung, dung sound's going, and when the cops walks over and just unplugs the camera. And I was just horrified, because I assume
Now
they
they know.
can't see me, but they could probably see that the camera's still loading, and they just unplugged it, even, they didn't even wear gloves.
And he told them the kidnappers had left this camera to monitor him.
Yeah.
To me, that was like the first sign that they did not believe him, even though,
Clearly.
you know, they had no reason not to. And Denise, meanwhile, tell me, and the kidnappers were wearing wetsuits. I mean, this is how well planned it was. And they figured it was because they, you know, so they wouldn't leave DNA behind, or if they had to escape off the island. But then the voice, as we call him in the first part of the book, because of course we don't know, he's one of the kidnappers. He's the one who took Denise. He tells Denise about their group and what they were doing. And can you talk a little bit about?
So they
this
only
group
caught
that
one
he's a part
guy.
of?
Yeah, so when
They
I was
think it's one guy?
held in captivity, he
Possible that there were
would
others.
explain to me why they were doing this. So he said that it was like a black market startup company that they developed that a client can hire them to fulfill either personal or financial debts. And so then they were hired to do this. And they're all highly trained. He said he was in the military. They have technological background. They've even studied the psychological effects of victims and crimes like this to try to know what to expect. And they've done this before. And I mean, he said that he didn't know why they were hired. They didn't know who hired him because he was going to be in charge of watching over the captive. It helped eliminate the possibility that he would give something away of who hired them. And so, I mean, it all was, again, just very structured, very planned out. It seemed like they had done this before. And again, just made it all the more evident that I was completely
No,
defenseless.
Vallejo,
I mean,
California
to
where they
drug
were.
us immediately, to have me
He was a
tie
Marine.
knee tie
Former
Aaron up,
Marine.
So, and not even come close enough
The,
to the male
kidnapper
victim
was.
to even allow for a defense.
And as I say, Brittany says it too.
I was.
Sorry, I didn't look over at the
I had really
chat.
my only defense at that time, especially in captivity, was to try to befriend him and build a rapport and show him who I was as a person and hope that maybe he'd follow through with releasing me and not kill me. I mean, it's
Place was called like
can only
Mayor Island, I
imagine
believe.
what something like this would be like. You hear about it in the movies and you just don't think that it's actually going to happen. And so I mean, I just used whatever defense that I had. And even with the rapes, he told me it was going to happen. He said that it needed to happen because since this wasn't meant for me, they didn't have any information on me. So he was going to record the rape to use in case they thought that I would talk to the police and then they'd release it on the internet. And with the first rape, I still had those blacked out swim goggles on, and I was thinking, this isn't going to look like anything other than someone being raped. And because he initially said it should look like somewhat consensual, like we were having an affair or something. And so then the second rape the next day, he said it wasn't good enough and he was going to tape my eyes shut so it just looks like my eyes are closed and that I would have to perform to kiss and say things to make it seem like we were actually in a relationship.
Okay, you don't have to.
No, it's fine.
Okay. And tell him what they said. Tell him what he said about his ex-fiance, because he was trying to figure out who may have hired them and why. The little conversation you had with the voice about that.
Well, he asked me if I knew anything about her, and I knew a lot from what Erin told me, but she also worked at the hospital with us, so I knew a little bit about her. And he asked if anyone in her family had money, and I had mentioned from Aaron, that I think her ex-husband's family had money, and he kind of dismissed that. And it's like the only other thing.
Because the guy was insane, literally insane.
That she
Guys,
had with this cop. And,
nuts.
And he kind of stopped and paused and was like, well, that sounds like that might be it, but there was nothing definitive. And of course, at that moment too, I'm thinking, you know, I mean, not only is this an organized group, there's potentially someone in law enforcement involved in this. And so that made it, again, even more terrifying. You know,
for Cocoa Puffs is
even
right.
if I do get released, if I do speak to police, are they going to know what I tell them? Because someone on the inside might be involved too.
And they said they monitor, they didn't tell you they monitor people for years afterwards.
If you want to join
he
the
gave an
channel,
example of
the information is on your screen, and there is a link in the chat.
She was going to
It's
go
pinned.
speak to the police.
You can use credit or debit if
they
you don't have any of the payment
delivered
apps.
a pie on the doorstep of her mom, who lived across the country, as a threat.
I've thought about maybe they grabbed the wrong woman, thinking
So all this is going on, and Aaron
Well, that's
goes
not
to
true
the police
because
for help, and then quickly
the guy had a drone and he was
discovers
stalking them.
what? That you're the suspect, right?
So I go to the police to give a statement and try to help anything I could do to help them find Denise. One of the first things they do is take my DNA, and they take the clothes I'm wearing, literally strip me down naked, take pictures for evidence. And they give me prison clothes to wear during this.
Oh, hell no. If it's not traumatizing
And then
enough,
I'm
here's some
stuck in
prison
a small
clothes.
room with no clock, no window. I'm just locked in the interrogation room. And for the next 18 hours, they aggressively interrogate me.
18 hours.
And say, this didn't happen.
You did it. You
believe
did it. We don't believe you. Yeah.
Something bad happened, but no frogman came into your house. And
Yeah, he was the main suspect.
You killed Denise, and you can either admit to it now and say it's an accident, or if you keep denying, we're going to paint you as a cold, calculated murderer.
Paint me as whatever you
And this
want.
is
You didn't do it.
Pretty standard operating procedure for police. There was no, you did, maybe the kidnapping happened, we'll investigate that. It was just, you killed her, and your only choices are accident or you're a sociopath. And I got questioned at all hours of the night, 1 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Eventually I asked for my brother.
But then talking about the lie detector, the FBI,
Yeah.
then the FBI gets involved.
Yeah, multiple times I asked for my brother because he said he was going to be at the station. They tell me they don't know where he is.
He's there.
Which was untrue. He's saying my parents and him stayed in the station the entire time. They just lied to me and said that he wasn't there. They asked me to take a polygraph, and I think if I wasn't so tired and so terrified, I would have denied that. But I agreed to do it, thinking foolishly that I would clear me as a suspect. Little did I know it didn't matter what the polygraph said, and not that polygraphs are reliable in the first place. They were just going to use it as a tool to say,
you did it. Yep.
I failed, and which they did. The FBI agent said, without Denise's, there's no question in my mind that you killed her.
You probably passed it, and they just
later
told him
we
he
find
failed.
out they never even evaluated the polygraph. They said results unknown in their affidavit.
And you've never seen them, and your lawyers never saw them.
No one ever saw it.
Because they either didn't do it or he passed. It's that simple.
At that point, after I supposedly failed this polygraph, the FBI agent goes after me for about 45 minutes nonstop. I mean, if it wasn't so ridiculous, it was kind of impressive because he barely even stopped to take a breath.
It is a tactic.
At one point I asked, I'm like, what evidence
Psychological
do you have
warfare.
that I did anything? And
Psyop.
he couldn't come up with that. That stumped him that you might actually need evidence to prove someone's guilty. At the same time, when outside,
Imagine
they told
that.
my brother that they could charge me with murder without a body. So I asked for a lawyer at
There's
15
no evidence
hours
of
in,
anything, of course.
because I had been telling them the same thing, and they wouldn't stop, and I just needed it to stop somehow.
And he keeps cooperating because he needs them to find Denise. He knew the kidnappers were going to be in touch again. They said
So he
they'd
does
call,
everything.
they said they were going to email, and he needs them their cooperation. And that's why another reason he kept trying to convince them to do something. And he was cooperating.
If you've never been in that room, the power dynamics are so skewed. You think, I mean, I was raised, if you're in trouble, call the police. And now I realize like they made everything worse. And I'm sitting there trying to defend myself, but again, like I have to.
Sometimes that's the case.
I need their help because they're the only ones who are going to.
Not all the time, but
who are going
sometimes.
to potentially save Denise.
They're both in therapy.
Watching the interrogations, years later and seeing what they said. I'm not looking for a live Denise. I'm looking for a dead Denise. She's dead. All right. I've accepted it. You accept it. She's dead. And at that time, I mean, I think one of the kidnappers was trying to call.
She was alive.
And no one was
monitoring
his phone. And just seeing that strategy, being the person who was missing, realizing like, it wasn't really me that they cared about finding. It just seemed like they cared about being right.
Yep.
And that was really hard to swallow.
90% of the
2020
time.
aired a 2-hour episode on the case last night, and you can see some of the interrogation videos on there, and there are other excerpts elsewhere. I know when I first watched it, when we were working on the book, it was hard to watch. It's so awful to I know Aaron now and who he is, and he's such a good person. And to think that he was treated this way is what chance does the average person have in that town?
It's awful.
You have two people who've never done anything to bring anything upon themselves, and it didn't matter. They decided, oh, is a guy here, his girlfriend's missing, he killed her. But then what happens is they get a proof of life audio. Denise's kidnapper has her record an audio of a proof of life. And then the police so do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, just from the bigger picture of that, they go from Aaron murdered me and we were in this horrible fight. And
I'll let you guys watch some of it.
Whatever, and then Aaron
pretty brutal.
It must have been an accident. He didn't mean to, but he murdered me. And then a proof of life is sent to indicate that I'm not dead. And so they immediately go to this whole Gone Girl, it's a hoax thing. And that's clear when I talked to my family, months later. My mom and brother came up to listen to that proof of life, and all they did was ask some questions that would paint me in a negative light, and even told my family, you should watch Gone Girl. This will explain a lot. And this is before I'm released. And I'm still at the hands and the mercy of these terrorists. And I could have easily still been killed. But it just shows how quick they went from, well, Aaron still must be shady. We couldn't be wrong that we thought that he killed her. So then they must be in on it.
They never want to be wrong, so then they have to come up with a different thing where they're not wrong.
Aaron's phone on airplane mode.
Yeah, so
airplane mode. They put his phone on airplane mode.
The proof of life, all this happened Sunday night into Monday morning was a home invasion. The proof of life came out Tuesday. Tuesday evening, they asked me to come to verify that's Denise's voice. They played me the proof of life about 10 hours after they actually had received it. Then they give me my phone. They give me my phone, and my lawyer's paralegal sees that it's on airplane mode. And I asked him, should I take it off? And I do, and my phone just floods with messages. Then they asked me to open up my emails, and I see that there's emails that have been opened from the kidnappers. So the cops had
the gaslighting is amazing.
Access to it, and they said they were going to call around 9 p.m. that night, and my phone was on airplane mode the entire time. Later, we find out they did call around that time. They called 3 times in about 5 minutes. They tracked those phone calls over 24 hours later, and it brought them up to South Lake Tahoe. It triangulated to South Lake Tahoe, which the police never went up there.
And even after I was released, they never went up there.
And then later, when one of the perpetrators was caught, he was caught in South Lake Tahoe.
And when, when Aaron's being interrogated by Detective Mustard, that's really his name.
Yeah.
We do have a
And it
joke,
was
Colonel Mustard.
Special
yeah.
Agent French,
Yeah.
too. French.
Sorry, the name is just, but Mustard actually tells Aaron that they've not heard from the kidnappers. They've not, he flat out lies to him and tells him, no, they haven't heard anything from him because, of course, you're the killer, so they're not even trying. I mean, there's just so many levels of this. It's hard to fathom all the terrible things they did, but Denise is released 48 hours later. The kidnapper says he can't take her to Vallejo because there's all this media coverage, because now the media is everywhere, and it's like they had recovered Aaron's car but didn't bother to tell his parents, who were sitting in the police station, that they found Aaron's car. And so the kidnapper says, well, do you want to say how you ended up in Huntington Beach?
Well, I mean, he asked me where I live or where family
Sad.
could get to me. And I said, no one is in Northern California. Everyone's in Southern California. And so he agreed that he would drop me off in my hometown. And I told him where my mom lived. It was on my driver's license. So I'm like, I mean, I can't lie to this person. And so we decided there's a street that I could easily walk to my mom's, and even if she wasn't home, I could walk to my dad's. He lived a mile away from her. And so he said that that's what he was going to do, and we were going to leave early in the morning, and he followed through with it. I was heavily sedated for that. I think it's probably about a 9-hour drive. And I mean, I still was in disbelief the whole time, still thinking like he's
gonna kill her.
He's not actually gonna do this. And really, like, I mean, every moment I was in captivity until that car drove away, I was just making peace with the end of my life.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
But he did. He said, we are here, and he took me out of the car, and they had taken my overnight bag that I had brought to Aaron's, and my work bag and my glasses and my purse. And so he dropped that out of the car and told me to count to 10. Before he left, though, he was sure to tell me that my strength was admirable, and he really wishes that we could have met under different circumstances. And
I'm gonna look at that one in a minute.
What this did to someone is not what he got into this for, and so he's going to change, and this never going to happen again. And I've like opened his eyes, and anyways, he tells me to count to 10. I can hear the car drive off. He had taped my eyes shut and put sunglasses over my eyes so it didn't look suspicious, because I was allowed to ride in the front seat on the drive down. But yeah, I peeled the tape off, and I stumbled down the alley, and I saw the street name of where I grew up, and I was like, I'm home. I mean, I was still so much shock that I was actually free, but at the same time, I was still confined to their threats and didn't feel like I'd ever be free for the rest of my life, because before also he released me, he'd said, there's so much media coverage. Aaron went to the police, so you're gonna have to talk to the police, which is fine. You can tell them everything about the organization and that it was meant for Aaron's ex, and you can tell them everything I told you. He said it would be good PR for their group, because it shows that they can successfully complete this task without harming, the victim. But he said, when you do talk to them, you can't tell them anything about us having sex, or anything about any of us being in the military. And if you do, I know where your family lives. We're always watching you. So that was just hanging over me as I stumbled to try to find my mom. She wasn't home. I used someone's phone to try to call both my mom and dad, went to voicemail. I let my dad know the route that I was going because I didn't have a phone. Once I got to his house, a neighbor was outside and took me in, and almost immediately 2 officers from Huntington Beach came in, and started questioning me. And overall, initially, I mean, they were respectful, but there was little things along the way that kind of caught me off guard. A few minutes in, I could see he was standing and holding a recording device discreetly by his side, and that worried me. And throughout that whole conversation, it was about an hour and a half, I spoke to Huntington Beach Police. I let them know, like I was worried about what was going to come out in the press, and the officer asked, well, why you think this is going to happen to you again? And I said, yes. They said that if I talk too much, yes. And they said, they told you not to say, like, talk to us. And I was like, I can't say too much. And he did ask me if I was sexually assaulted, and I said no. And I deflected and said, overall, they treated me really nicely, even though being kidnapped and held against my will isn't anywhere nice. But, they fed me and gave me water. And I think too, at the time I was obviously afraid for my life and my family's life, thinking that this is going to get out eventually in the media. I mean, it happens, and they were trying to assure me, oh no, it'd all be blacked out if they request it anyways, but how do I know? And then again, how do I know that someone in the group's not in the police, and that's how they would find out information.
All the information on them to begin with.
So, I mean, it was just
same thing I would think.
A really conflicting and like impossible position to be in. And again, then it might have been like they're saying CSI will come in, a detective will come in and talk to you, and it just kept going on and on. I wasn't allowed to talk to my family. I asked many times, can I talk to them? No, not yet. I'm sure they're really happy that you're safe. And eventually my cousin comes in because he's an attorney.
Yep.
So they couldn't hold him off
Tell him
any
no.
longer. And for the first time, my cousin comes in and asks me, what do you want to do? What do you need?
I want to go
I
home.
said, I just need to go somewhere safe. And so I went to my aunt's house nearby, and the whole time we were in contact with
It's a book
Vallejo
they wrote
police, detective before
called
we
Victim
left
F.
that neighbor's house. That detective Mustard, who questioned him, got on the phone with my cousin and said, look, we're going to be offering her immunity, a proffer of agreement. We're going to be offering it to Aaron or to her, and whoever accepts it first will get it. And Aaron's sitting across from me right now, so like, we have to be quick about this decision. My response was, immunity from what? Like, what?
Exactly.
What did I
From what?
do? And then we spoke to family members in Vallejo, and it was really obvious that they didn't believe me. And so obviously it being offered, this legal offer. And so I needed to consult with a criminal defense attorney. And that's how I got in contact with my criminal defense attorney. I spent all night telling him everything that happened, including the rapes. And he said, if you can choose not to speak to police, but if you do, you definitely have to tell them that you were raped. And I made that really impossible decision. Again, I just felt like if I did, I would be killing a family member trying to prove my innocence, because at the time, well, also that press release came out.
Right. So Denise was really, I think he got in about 10 or 11 a.m. on Wednesday. She's released. Aaron hears about it. He's excited. And then the police hold one press conference at around 3 p.m. and Aaron decides to watch it, thinking, okay, now the tone of this will change. Denise has been released. And instead they say, from an investigative standpoint, nothing has changed, even though Denise has been released. And then at 9:30 that night, they hold what became this infamous press conference, and Aaron watched it with his parents. So tell me, like, what you remember about, this is where they called the whole thing a hoax.
Yeah, so prior to that, I had been at the police station. They did the same thing, offered me immunity.
And they have kids now.
They said
Imagine what they think for their
also
kids.
they had some sort of evidence that proved that I was guilty of this.
You can't have evidence of something that didn't happen. I say this all the time. You can't have evidence of something that never happened.
And
doesn't exist.
Lieutenant Kenny Park basically starts off with that we're no longer going to refer to them as victims, or he basically just says we're suspects, and that we they couldn't substantiate anything I had said over the last 48 hours.
They didn't try. They didn't even try.
Ms. Huskins had disappeared again, which is, and they hadn't spoken to her.
Did not disappear. She went of her own
and
free
then said
will.
the whole thing was a wild goose chase, and that we
they got married.
owed the city an apology.
They have kids,
for instilling fear onto the community and the real victims. And then it turns
as if they're not real victims.
No longer some missing woman is now a hoax, and that.
And pause that for a second, because what Aaron just said is extremely important, right? And what you guys have said is extremely important. All of these people who said they didn't believe them, right? They didn't believe them. It's a hoax. They didn't believe them because one police officer said it doesn't make sense. It's not adding up. You must have done this, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to point out real quick that this is exactly what happened to Lindsay. The perpetrator says she's crazy. It's a hoax. It's a setup. He didn't do anything wrong. And then, as Darvo people do, turned the tables onto the victim and said, she's a bad person. She's a liar, blah, blah, blah. And this is imagine how these people feel is the exact same way that Lindsay feels on a daily basis, with people questioning her and saying that they don't believe her, when all she's done in that case is tell the truth about what happened. All she has done is say exactly what happened. And yet she's met with these cultists who will sit there and say, nope, she made it up. Nope, it's not true. Nope, she's not a victim. It's fake. I'm sorry, but I've seen all the evidence with my own two eyeballs. She has shared the truth numerous times, and I can't wait until the moment that and we know she'll probably never get the apologies that she's entitled to from people. But when eventually they do realize that she's been telling the truth this whole time, I really hope that people put their adult big girl or big boy panties on and apologize for the horrific, horrible, awful things they have said about her. And realize that they were wrong all this time, that a perpetrator probably isn't going to admit to things that they did, just FYI. And also they're not going to admit to it publicly. My abuser certainly didn't be like, yep, I did it. It was me. I'm the one who did it. Sure did. Please charge me. I don't know any abuser that was like, yep, I did it. Whoop, whoop. Common sense says that they're not going to do that, right? They're not going to do that. So she'll be owed quite a few apologies, just like Aaron and Denise have been owed, and I'm sure they haven't gotten quite a few.
Became a firestorm of media, and then
it is secondhand traumatizing.
Denise is being called a real life gone girl.
It is
and
extremely traumatizing.
Our lives, our reputations were just destroyed.
Especially knowing some of the things I know that you guys don't. It's a lot to hold.
People, our close family and friends knew that it actually happened, but other people didn't. Denise got a ton of hate mail, like more or less death threats, people telling us we should be ashamed of, how dare we do this to our family?
Yeah.
How dare we do this to real
the
victims?
whole internet attacking them just the way they have Lindsay. It's disgusting.
If we didn't have each other, I don't know where we would be. Unfortunately, just there's a lot to our story. So I'll give you the speed through.
Why we wrote a book.
Yeah, we do want
to. Fortunately, fortunately, police from different departments did their job. Unfortunately, a few months later, one of the perpetrators attacked another family in a similar style. But those detectives actually believed the couple.
And did their job.
And
that's what cracked the case. Other cops.
The detective ended up tracing that phone call, or tracing the perpetrator left his phone at the crime scene. She followed that back up to South Lake Tahoe, and then found evidence that linked them to our crime. And in turn, then the FBI finally arrested him, and we were able to at least get some level of justice.
Another couple and got spooked and he dropped his phone.
This dangerous man off the streets.
But they think there's other people involved that were never tracked down.
Yeah, Misty, the detective, and in that case, I mean, she's our hero.
She.
Our lives would have been over.
A woman.
If she didn't take those extra measures to find out
What the hell?
what else
Whose
he was
hair?
involved in. Because she
That
very
was.
easily could have said, okay, like we got the guy for our case.
And that's
case
that.
closed. But she said that when she went into that home, she knew something else happened there. And so she was relentless and
Good for her.
followed the
I would have been too.
evidence, and it led her to our case. And
It was her first case as a detective.
yeah.
And
Sure was.
She's
And
amazing.
she
as
did her
Denise was
damn
saying,
job.
she's our hero. Her husband's amazing as well. They actually came to our wedding.
Yeah.
They came
And-
to our baby shower.
And we went to hers.
We went to their
so-
baby shower.
And for us too, I mean, all we wanted that whole
Lindsay
time
does it alone.
was to have
Daily.
a hero,
Alone.
especially in law enforcement, to turn to. And it was just like
I mean, his
this
brother in the FBI
horrible,
clearly didn't help that much,
Twilight Zone.
even if
of,
you did
like,
believe him.
You know, like Aaron said, we grow up believing in the police, and you call them. Something bad happens, you call 911, and now we're like, do you? And if you do, should you
Do
also
you?
get
And
your
what do you
defense
do?
attorney on the phone too?
With you.
And that is going to be our new reality. I mean, that's something, you know,
Something you're
so
going to
it's
probably
just-
teach your kids.
It's really
Unfortunate, but true.
disheartening in a lot of ways, but at the same time, there's detectives like Misty, and then Aaron's brother is an FBI agent. I mean, the fact that we had him to consult with and talk to and help us through each of these legal battles and obstacles, you know, not many other people who were in our position had that advantage.
And you spent,
They
what,
did not.
$140,000 on legal fees to defend yourself?
Yeah, about
It's a lot of money.
$140,000
And
on-
And even
But
then, our
most people don't
attorneys
have that.
worked way beyond.
Lindsay surely
we,
doesn't.
We never got charged. So there's not many. It tells you
140 grand to
how
not
there's
get
problem
charged.
how many people have 140,000 to spend?
Right.
And
He sold his house, and his parents, they're not wealthy, but they had always lived very frugally, and so they had money saved,
Yeah.
but,
Well,
and they had to
Having
do
that
it.
kind of money saved
But,
definitely means you're not broke.
Because otherwise, I mean, you don't know. I mean, if they hadn't had such good lawyers, they could have been arrested. For the 3 months before one of their perpetrators was caught, the only people being
One.
investigated were Aaron and Denise. And they kept making it very clear to them, the U.S. Attorney's Office and everything, that they were being investigated and they were going to be charged. Meantime,
either, girl.
this gets convoluted, but the FBI agent on the case,
I don't have a
used to
savings, so there's
date
that. Pretty
Aaron's
sure I'm down to like my
ex-fiancée.
last $20 at the moment.
He did not disclose that. He should have recused himself. He did not do that. They kept him
Me
away
either.
from Aaron and all these meetings he was having, and then they find out. But he questioned Denise.
Yeah, so I still went in for questioning for 2 days, and
So
on
insane.
that
Who he was.
second day, he was the one that questioned me, and then by the end of it, he told my attorney,
They
99%
caught
sure she's lying.
one of
and,
the guys.
You
One.
should watch Gone Girl. Again, it'll explain a lot. And this is the same agent who has a severe conflict of interest. Yeah, I mean,
he actually, that same agent,
Hey.
David Sesma, I might as well say his name.
Yep.
Yeah, we can say his name.
He actually at one point accused my brother of being a co-conspirator, that my
Yeah.
brother was helping me cover up this murder. Again, never disclosed his relationship. And not only was it, he had dated my ex, she was previously married, and their relationship ended her marriage. So it was an affair as well.
Huge conflict of interest.
But he
Huge.
got promoted. And Detective Mustard
Detective
Disgusting.
got Officer of the Year that same year.
that year.
Disgusting.
He's the
And we
head
named
of
him in our
the
civil suit
police.
that same year.
He's the head of the police union, and they want to make him feel better.
But they were able to file a lawsuit against the police
Yeah,
for defamation.
yeah.
Let me know if you need help. They did win a case.
Yeah,
and I'll
I
let
mean,
you help.
obviously there's a
I mean, I'll
lot
let you.
of
I will help.
tragic,
Obviously, as I said
events that
yesterday.
happened in our case and that we
Yeah, it
detail
was
in the
bad.
book, but it is ultimately our
Oh, yeah.
love story, and there
For
is a
detective
happy
work,
ending.
for not
We
doing
were
anything.
able to stay together, and our bond grew stronger because of it and because of our families. And we got married in 2018, and now we have a 1-year-old who's just like,
This was a couple years ago. They have another kid now.
she's just a bright light.
And she's now 5?
She was born 5 years
4?
to the day that I was released from the kidnapping.
Aw.
And I always considered that release like my second chance at life, my rebirth. And so then having her come into this world the same day is just, I mean, ironic,
amazing,
and beautiful at the same time. So yeah, I mean, I think there's obviously
They have
lot
2 kids now.
that
this was in
even though this
2021.
has been in and out of the media cycle for the last 6 years, there's a lot that hasn't been talked about and hasn't been covered. And a big part of our trauma was that misrepresentation and that, you know, the labeling and then the social media attacks, and in a lot of ways that was more traumatic than the actual crime. And so that's why it was so important for us
100%.
to write a book, to be able to share the truth with the world finally. And in sharing,
I need to get their book.
To shed light on some really
put that on my wish list. Their book.
Serious social and systemic issues that we faced, but maybe more than anything to help support other survivors. Because for us, when we had to stay silent for those years, we watched a lot of other survivors speak out, and it just empowered us.
Well, I'll help you all. Right.
And so, you know, hopefully we can do the same.
It should already have been
But we'd
done.
like
Jesse.
to open it up if you guys have
already.
questions. I'm told there are microphones. I'm having a hard time seeing. If you
I'm
want to come up,
interested to
there's
see.
a
I've never
microphone
seen
there.
this.
Oh,
So
there's one. Okay, hi.
I'm interested to see
What's
what
your
questions
question?
people ask.
First, thank you so much for sharing your story. I can't imagine sitting up here and talking about this and doing it over and over again.
You don't talk
While
about
you're
it
going
though.
through
Other
this
people
crazy upside
don't.
down world,
To know
did
they're not
either
alone.
of you ever think like, did he do this to me? Did you ever think like, am I being played? Is this something that she's set up somehow?
Me too,
Did you
Hard
ever
Star.
think like, do I not know him at all? Did he set this up against me? I mean, while you're in that situation, because the world obviously was crazy and upside down. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you have to go through all possibilities, right? So I mean, when I was released and then the immunity offer was being given to me, I spoke to a different defense attorney at first. He was more in Southern California, and then and he was like, well, how do you know this guy's not going to take it? Like, how well do you really know him? And I'm like, I know him though. Like but you cycle through it. Like, did I have a psychotic break?
Idiots,
And
Jesse.
am I like, am I
Shouldn't have changed your
schizophrenic?
name.
Like,
That's what happens when you get married.
You have to question your own sanity and think, no, but how did I get down here? Like, how physically could I have gotten down here if this didn't really happen? And then too, with him, I'm like, there's a possibility he could take the immunity, but why would he do that? This happened. Like, he was there. Like, so it didn't make sense, but certainly, yeah. I mean, I know Aaron had that.
Yeah, in the press conference, I think if you guys see it, the police officer is Kenny Parkett. He's mad, and he is convinced, and he's convincing in it. And when he said, you know, Denise stopped communicating, it did plant like a seed of doubt in me, and it's probably one of my biggest regrets in my life. And then, you know, at that point, as you say, like, the world's so upside down. And then I realized, took a few minutes and realized like how they treated me, and thankfully Denise was smart enough to get an attorney. And I realized they're just making it up. And my attorney went, well, if they're offering you both immunity and only giving it to one, that means they need the other one to say it's a hoax. And like, that means they don't have shit.
Our defense attorneys were amazing.
Yeah.
Like, if you have any reservations about attorneys, I mean, they really were our heroes. You know,
they came to our wedding as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
We had
about
like
20
two tables
we had
full
about 20
of
attorneys
our
there.
attorneys, our civil attorneys, our criminal attorneys. Yeah.
I love
Denise's
that for them.
attorney actually married them.
Yes,
He
he
was
was
our
our
after wedding.
Yeah,
Victim F is the name of the book.
Different world.
I got to put that on my wish list. I want to read it.
I do. You said a number of people came into the home, to your home. Can you tell us how many people came in? Have they all been arrested? Were any of them police? Were any of them ex-military?
They arrested one.
Yes, one has been arrested. He's ex-military, he's a Harvard-trained lawyer. His name's Matthew Mueller. He was 38 at the time. The police are claiming that he did it by himself. He's saying that he did it by himself, but he's also attempting to use insanity as his defense. So you can't have co-conspirators if you have.
Can't be insane and have plotted and planned something like this for 6 months with people.
Yeah,
So
we know there's at least three people in the home based off of Denise saw a couple of people from waist down. We heard why the voice was next to us. We heard two different distinct sounds downstairs of people, one person using drill, the other person going
So
through
it's
the
more than one
cabinets.
person.
So there's at least three, but we doubt that they'll look for the other two because it's the same investigators who said, I murdered Denise. That was a hoax. We asked for new investigators. They didn't give it to us. And that special agent who had an affair is the one claiming that everything is okay. And they caught the bad guy.
And the one thing we did skip over is, so the morning after this press conference, they're calling her Gone Girl, headlines all over the world. The kidnappers sent a 9,000-word email to the media, to the San Francisco Chronicle, saying, hey, we did this. This wasn't, they did not make this up. It's not a hoax. And it gives all these details. It has pictures of where Denise was held. All these details. We're an Ocean's Gentlemen League. We're an Ocean's 11 group of gentlemen criminals. And they give all these details about the crimes they've committed on the island. And
They're probably
the police are
never
just they figured they wrote the
look for
emails
them.
and scheduled them. And then they accused their attorneys of writing them. But so even in this email, they're saying how their group worked, and it wasn't enough. So we know there's more people out there, but they're being gaslit yet again because I think the FBI doesn't want to investigate because it's going to lead back to their own house in some way. There's no other explanation. But I'm sorry.
They probably already
over here.
know
I'm sorry,
who the
So
other
that
people
actually,
were.
what you just said kind of leads into my question. Was you mentioned about they had mentioned about the ex-fiance and that you were mistaken for that. So has she been questioned? Is there any information she has given? And my other question would be, did they ever find any information on the guy mentioned to you of who was planning this, who was paying them, or who was behind this? Has any information come out about that?
And the investigators basically say that he did it by himself because he's like a sexual deviant. He had broken into homes 8 years prior and threatened to rape the female victim, but never followed through. Yeah, so it's difficult because being position of victims, we don't have the power to investigate. We can only tell them so much and push them in the right direction. And then, it's out of our hands. So it's hard in that way. Unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna get a lot of answers.
And for us, part of writing the book too is that many victims, things happen, they never get answers. And so we have to move forward in the unknown. And we're hoping as people read through, maybe they see that. Obviously, we would love to find the answers of what happened, but what's more important is our love for each other, our families. We're back working, those core things that mean more than if something else affects. The only downside of that is that we know there's other people out there who are dangerous.
Yeah, obviously we wish we knew, but if you keep asking why, you'll drive yourself crazy.
Yeah,
So at some point, you have to move forward.
And Mueller said, though, the lone person who's been arrested, and he pled guilty to kidnapping in the federal trial, still facing a state trial on the rape and home invasion charges. But he said in one of his court filings that he plays this cat and mouse game a lot, that he speculated that it was the cop that his ex-fiance was having the affair with, that he was behind this home invasion to try to send her back into his arms because they had broken up again, her and the sex. It's very convoluted, but it seems to be that
the evidence in the Knox case sort of speaks for itself.
Ex-cop who was having the affair.
She had nothing to do with what happened in that house.
Target, may have been the one who hired these guys.
It's unfortunate, but she was very young at the time, naive.
She's married to him today and has a baby with him. Yeah. So I'm sorry, over here.
Yes, I think you've probably already answered this question, but I wondered if anybody in law enforcement had ever
I'm sorry,
officially
can you-
apologized to you for any of that. I'm
The-
sorry, did anybody in law enforcement ever officially apologize to you for doubting you and accusing you?
Their city attorneys wrote an apology letter for them and they signed it.
So no.
That was lovely.
So no.
There's a new police chief, and with us promoting the book, this new police chief did give us a public apology and saying that what happened to us was wrong.
You think? That doesn't.
It's just interesting because we reached out, Nikki reached out for comment for our book.
Nothing.
And they didn't say anything. But when we're promoting our book and it's on 2020 and People,
Then you want to say something.
magazine, then they're apologizing. So it's a little
PR.
You know.
They didn't want the
I would
bad
say,
PR.
I did get to speak to one other FBI agent, Agent Walter, and he actually did genuinely apologize. And he apologized to me, apologized to my mom, and apologized to Denise. And that
They did sue for
he's the
defamation
only
and they
one in law
won.
enforcement, and that
Something,
was
1 point something
sincere,
million.
and owned up to his mistakes. And that
This
yeah,
was
that
way
that was
in the
at least
early
staff time,
2000s.
individually, but as a whole, it's been all PR.
When I used to shut my phone off at night.
Thank you.
Me and my
Yeah,
husband
thanks.
used to do it at the same exact time before we went to sleep.
Good morning.
It doesn't really say
so
much.
Kind of story into a question, but there was a gentleman named
Also,
Alan,
they do know that
Grocer,
one of the
who
people
was secured by the
involved
Innocence
had
Project,
something to
served
do with
25
it.
years, received a settlement from the police. After he was released, he was frequently harassed and brought up on minor charges. And it seems like even though the police will clear you, or they'll never like believe you. So
Clear,
I
yeah.
guess my question is, have you faced any sort of harassment from law enforcement?
I'm sure they have.
post-
They're not going
or,
to say that
not
publicly,
post,
though.
is it still going?
Risky to do that.
We
No.
haven't received anything directly. One of
We did move
yeah, we moved
cities.
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was definitely and again, we are fortunate that we can move out, and a lot of
Yeah,
people
you
can't
could.
move
Some people
from the
cannot do that.
communities, and that does happen, that harassment. And yeah, but we feel safe in the community that we're in, and again, like we have our criminal attorneys that we can always call, and if anything came up. And we, as much as publicity was a huge part of our trauma, it's like because it's in the public eye in some ways, it's ironically safe in that way. If anything happened to us, we have a platform, which again, a lot of people don't have, so.
And I'm sorry, we've got to wrap
That's the
this
other
up. They're
problem.
going to bring the hook out.
Can we maybe?
Oh, one more,
No?
just right here. Sorry.
Hear me?
Yes.
Are you aware that in the state of Illinois, legislation has been passed
Yes.
to keep interrogators from lying to juveniles, to trick them into confessions
Juveniles,
and
not
to
adults.
exhaust them? Would you like to see that kind of legislation pass in the United States?
Yeah, so Illinois passed a really big step of reducing deceptive techniques to juveniles. New York and Oregon are looking to do similar bills. I'm hoping
Adults too, not just
to
juveniles.
become an advocate for that to be passed in all 50 states, and not just for juveniles, but for adults.
It's a police tactic. It's not going to get passed.
The
But it's
ability
good
for police
sentiment.
to lie doesn't help anyone. And they always do the ends justify the means, but
Nope.
particularly in our case, if they weren't able to lie to me, to my brother, to Denise's family, to my parents, they would actually just have to look at the evidence. And if I had committed a crime, you present me with evidence, it's very difficult to get out of that. In turn, they use these deceptive techniques because confessions get convictions.
Yep.
And we need as a
Numbers.
society to adjust from that. You are innocent until proven guilty.
Numbers.
And to wrap it up, I would love for it to happen
So real
all
quick,
across this country.
before I
We
show you
deserve
guys
better,
this thing,
and I know police
this
will do
next
better
thing
if they're
with the judge.
just eliminate that choice for them.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the end of it. But before I show you guys this next thing, with the judge, there are quite a few clips of, let me see. Let's see. Hold on.
Never before released cold case confessions recorded during recent in-custody interviews with Matthew Mueller, the serial predator who kidnapped Denise Huskins and has now confessed to decades of similar home invasions and sexual assaults.
But we're back in Tahoe, not far from where this all started.
Huskins.
What's it like for you
guy
to be
they
in this
arrested.
room this close to where you were held hostage?
Yeah.
I mean, Mueller.
At a law enforcement conference in South Lake Tahoe.
Kidnapper.
Bittersweet to be able to be
Matthew
here
Mueller.
and reclaim this is something positive.
Denise Huskins is no longer a name on a case file. She's an expert.
This was actually something quite common, too common, the disbelief of victims and survivors.
The woman once discredited by authorities is now helping to train them, alongside her now husband, Aaron Quinn, and the two officers who finally believed them.
She's dead.
Together, this team helped solve at least 4 cold case crimes this year. Crimes that may have been solved a decade ago if only someone had listened sooner.
They did not come into your house and kidnap her and take her for ransom.
March 2015, intruders did blindfold and drug the couple in their Vallejo home, then kidnapped, raped, and held Denise for ransom while police falsely accused Aaron of killing her.
Okay, how do I make it so you look like a monster?
Instead of searching for the kidnapper,
It is Mr. Quinn and Ms. Huskins that owes this community an apology.
when the kidnapper released Denise, police accused the couple of orchestrating a hoax.
The members of our community are safe.
They weren't.
The real tragedy is now we know there's 2 other families that Mueller terrorized and attacked because these investigators had blinders on.
2 months later,
anybody
their
for
attackers struck
decades.
again in nearby Dublin, California, leading police to Matthew Mueller's Tahoe cabin, where he held Denise captive, and where then rookie detective Misty Caruso found the crucial evidence.
And my heart stopped, and I was like,
hair.
Oh my God, like she has long blonde hair, and I have goggles with literally, it was one strand of blonde hair that I was like.
1 month later, Denise and Aaron were finally vindicated. Mueller was sentenced to 40 years in federal prison, but the nightmare wasn't over.
At one point, he lay down in the bed next to me and then just started telling me how he...
2015 interrogation recordings revealed Denise warned investigators a decade ago that Mueller told her there were other victims.
Like you said, like they've probably done this before.
But for 10 years, they couldn't get anyone to investigate.
It's terrifying to me to think of how many victims there might still be out there that are living in fear.
These are horrible, horrible crimes.
Then, last year's most-watched Netflix docuseries chronicled Denise and Aaron's American nightmare. And small-town Seaside Police Chief Nick Borges reached out to them on Instagram.
Denise was first to respond back to me, and I was shocked that she would even speak to anyone in law enforcement.
He organized a law enforcement speaking engagement for Denise, Aaron, and Misty, where they met El Dorado County DA Vern Pearson. What began as a conversation soon became a mission to bring closure to Mueller's other victims.
I remember her saying, but we're not law enforcement. What do we do? And that's kind of where I said, well, let me try to help.
But he didn't have jurisdiction.
Wrote a letter to the U.S. Attorney's Office, never heard back.
So, working with Denise, Aaron, and Misty, he wrote directly to Matthew Mueller.
What did it feel like for you to have these 2 law enforcement officials listen and believe you?
I mean, it meant the world having a chief of police and then a DA with jurisdiction to actually look into something and say, like, we see you, we hear you, we believe you, and we want to fight for you is like
amazing.
Like, why does it have to be so hard
It
to
doesn't.
get that?
It shouldn't. This is why victims
After 10 years, their persistence finally paid off. For the first time, we're showing you Mueller's cold case
What they need.
confessions from behind bars, limited excerpts to protect victim privacy
protection they need,
and ongoing
which is
investigations.
what I keep fighting
First,
for.
Mueller confessed in a letter to 2 home invasion attempted rapes in Santa Clara County in 2009. Police questioned Mueller at the time, but said they didn't have enough evidence to charge him. Despite similarities to Denise's case 7 years later, they never reopened those cold cases or retested Mueller's DNA.
It's fair to say that both law enforcement agencies in our county that handled these rape cases in 2009 and the DA's office, there are things that we would do differently and do better today. That's because of the twins.
This year, Santa Clara County DA Jeff Rosen reopened the cold cases and finally tested Mueller's DNA, which he acknowledges was justice delayed for the victims and Denise and Aaron. When Mueller was finally sentenced to 2 life terms for those 16-year-old crimes,
It came the week of the 10-year anniversary of our kidnapping. So it was very like, wow, like just looking back and all that we had gone through and everything that it took to get to this place.
and that was just the beginning. Next, Mueller confessed to an unreported 2015 home invasion robbery in Contra Costa County, just 2 weeks after he released Denise and months before he was arrested. But in order to bring closure to those victims, detectives would have to find them. Chief Borges enlisted DA Pearson, who technically had jurisdiction in Denise's case.
She was sexually assaulted in our county.
So he got access to Mueller in prison along with the FBI.
Tied them up, went to the son's room, woke him up.
In recorded confessions, Mueller describes how he convinced the family to keep the crime a secret, threatening his accomplices would find and harm their kids.
There's very good reason if they didn't afford it.
He said he didn't know the family's address.
We get him to draw a diagram.
So Mueller drew this crude map, but it was a key piece of evidence that led detectives to the victims.
There's a ladder, and I threw it into the ravine that was pretty much directly behind their property.
Pearson had a hunch.
What if that ladder's still there?
He credits Contra Costa Sheriff's detectives for hiking into the woods at night based on a hunch from a rural county DA they'd never met.
About 2 hours later, I get a text pictures of this ladder from a crime that had never been reported that took place 9 years earlier.
Contra Costa DA Dinah Becton stresses this one wasn't a cold case.
We had no knowledge that they had suffered this horrible crime.
They found the victims still living in fear from a crime that wouldn't have even been investigated without Denise and Aaron and the officers who finally believed them. Mueller got another life sentence, but his confessions didn't end there.
One of the most striking things is finding out how young he was when he started. So age 16, attacking a couple.
Mueller describes in chilling detail how he ambushed a couple camping in Sacramento County back in 1993 when he was still a teen.
I ordered them out of the tent. I told them I had a gun. I believe I tied them both.
At the time, police didn't believe the victims.
Shocker.
Like Denise and Aaron, they suspected the boyfriend.
Through Denise's and Aaron's persistence, we were able to bring justice to other victims.
Last month, Sacramento County DA Tin Ho secured a 4th life sentence for Mueller. The culmination of 6 crimes, more than a dozen victims,
didn't believe the victim.
32 years of unanswered questions and justice delayed. Cases that could have been solved sooner. Victims who could have been spared.
Believed them.
But thanks to Denise and Aaron, they were not forgotten.
So it means the world to be invited to come to these things, to have law enforcement care and work with us.
Together, they're writing their next chapter, using trauma to teach, turning pain into purpose, proving that when survivors are believed, cold cases don't have to stay cold.
Bingo.
Denise and Aaron Quinn are the California District Attorney's Witnesses of the Year, not for what they endured, but for what they made possible. Denise and Aaron are now working with law enforcement to sponsor legislation that they hope will address some of the failings highlighted by their case. For instance, Denise's rape kit wasn't even tested until this year. They'd also like to see every officer get better training on how to work with victims
Or the other
and
ones be
suspects
fired?
to help solve crimes.
Just saying.
Thank you for giving law enforcement a second chance.
Now you're sorry.
And because you didn't
they
give
solve
up,
cases.
other victims have been saved.
I want to thank you for persevering all these years.
Sorry, but his
and
sorry
ensuring
doesn't
the full
mean
accountability
shit
of
anymore.
Mr. Mueller.
Wouldn't to me.
It's been my honor and privilege to work with you over the last year and a half during this reinvestigation.
I've always known that these two individuals, because of their perseverance, their heart, their
Good for
character,
you, Nick Borges.
their passion, that they would help change law enforcement at a national level. And every single day you see them doing that. They become extreme advocates for survivors. And to receive such a prestigious award like this, there's no two people more deserving than they are.
What you survived, what you endured, it's beyond words. But what truly sets you apart is the way that you've turned your pain into power. Your perseverance through trauma, through doubt, through every obstacle has
That's what we try to do here.
Not just people that are closest to you, but people around the world on so many different levels. Aaron, your unwavering support, Denise, your fierce strength, and together your absolute love, not only for yourselves, each other, your family, but humanity altogether. That love carried you both through the darkest moments and into the light of justice. Your courage helped bring truth forward, and your voices are helping protect others. From the bottom of my heart, and on behalf of every survivor who feels a little less alone, congratulations. You didn't just survive, you fought back, and we see you, we honor you, we thank you, and we absolutely love you. So cheers and enjoy the moment.
What I would like to see is other victims who haven't been, believed. Whether it's by the public as a whole, a false narrative being told via social media. I mean, these people were torn apart by social media, and their story was true. They did not lie, right? I've seen the same thing happen to multiple people in the last 3 years, and it's deplorable. And, something that we've been working on behind the scenes, probably for at least the last 2 years, is victims' rights, and the rights of witnesses, because they are not getting the protection that they deserve. They are not getting the legal protection that they need. And there are far too many people who are being tortured. And I guess, they both said it best. Aaron and Denise said it best, which is the false narrative online, the harassment that they garnered from people online and from mainstream media was probably worse. That torture was probably worse than the crime itself. And I know quite a few people, including myself, that can say that exact same thing, that the lies, the rumors, the false BS about yourself from other people can be more harmful than the crime itself. It's not okay. It's never okay. And as long as I have breath in my lungs, on this channel, we will always strive to make sure that that doesn't happen to someone else, and to support anybody it does happen to with the truth, because it isn't ever done. And as you know, over here, it's something I work on consistently and constantly. Like, a lot of creators don't just press a button and go, guys. Like, there's a lot of work that's done behind the scenes, and a lot of things you guys don't get to know about until they're finished or until they're done. That might take months, years to do. And advocating is a very empowering thing, right? But it's also a lot of work. But in the end, that look of that person that you helped, or people that you helped, just a look on their faces of thanks, the hug they give you, or the words thank you, are enough, because there are so many more people out there that need that kind of support or advocacy that just don't have it. There's only one of me. There's only one, right? But imagine how many people need an advocate or need someone to speak out, because no one's listening to them, right? That's something I've been doing quietly for 18 years, and something I will continue to do no matter what, but I don't think people appreciate that so many cases like this happen, where the internet is tearing these people apart, saying it's a hoax, saying that they did something wrong, and all they want is someone to listen to them. someone to listen to their truth. That's it. That's all they wanted. I mean, the interrogation on this guy is brutal. Like, and then when you go back and watch it and you know that every word is truth, and this detective is just like, no, you killed her. Like, you might as well just tell us. For 18 freaking hours. And for 18 hours, he continues to say, like, you need to find her. This is all of the information I have. And he continues to keep talking to them, hoping that something will jog their memory on some piece of evidence that they have. And it'll lead them to find Denise. And after every hour, Aaron starts to realize they're not looking. They're not looking. They're more focused on how to screw him than they are trying to find Denise. Hold on one second. Sorry, guys. You know, I often will tell people privately, there needs to be so many more advocates or people speaking out. There just needs to be. And people don't, for various reasons. The amount of victims I've talked to in the last 2 years alone have been staggering. The amount of victim, and my first, thing that I say to them always is report it to the police. Report it. Report it. And believe me, as a survivor of some pretty horrific crimes and abuse myself, I know how difficult that is. I also know that police don't always take it seriously. I'm fully aware of that from instances of other survivors that I've spoken to and their stories on how that doesn't always happen. But I can tell you this. I can tell you that I will never stop fighting with you, beside you, to make sure that someone listens. Because everyone's pain and trauma is an awful thing, but it can be used to help other people. It is something I've been using to help other people for a really long time. And I applaud Aaron and Denise because their extensive knowledge in this field, because of what they went through, because of like the patterns and the research they've done to connect what they went through to many other people in many other cases, it makes them prime advocates to help others sort of navigate their way through this system, or listen when no one else is listening, and help them figure it out, right? That's something that I've tried to do for a long time, being somebody who's been, a survivor of domestic violence, somebody who's a survivor of abuse as a child, somebody who's a survivor of abuse in foster care, someone who survived addiction. It's coming up on 20 years and 2 years short of 20. You have a lot of knowledge over the years of helping people, and what works, what doesn't, who would be willing to listen in different law enforcement fields, and who just isn't going to listen, and who just don't care. It's unfortunate because anytime you go to law enforcement with something, they should listen. And I'll tell you this much. I'll tell you, from all of the victims that have spoken to law enforcement in the last 2 years that I have sent to them, 4 are under investigation. 4 out of the, I'd say about 20, all with the same perpetrator. All with the same perpetrator. So for instance, PR does matter. If the police don't want to look like they're doing something, or if they think somebody can spin it into, oh, well, you're over arresting or overcharging with too many charges one person, they have a tendency to just not do anything, because they're more worried about what the look of it is versus what the actual crime was, even if they have the evidence right in front of them. And it's unfortunate, but it's something that I'm working on when it comes to legislation, at least here in my state, to make sure that they don't have that discretion anymore. They have been given a lot of discretion in a lot of areas, and unfortunately, they're just not using it properly. So now that they're not using it properly, we no longer can afford them that discretion. If a crime is reported, you have to look into it. There is no, we're declining to charge, even with evidence in front of you, because we don't want the public to look at it as if we're charging one person with too many crimes. If they're committing that many crimes, I don't give a shit if you charge them with 200 crimes, if that's how many they committed. Because if it was a different state they would charge that person with every crime they committed, right? The look of it, the PR version of it, is not an excuse to not charge somebody with a crime. A crime where by not charging allows that person to continue making victim after victim after victim after victim. It's unfortunate, but it's happening actively right this minute. I can tell you from experience. And the victims, they feel like they're waiting forever. Justice is slow, but they also shouldn't have to wait forever for something that's pretty cut and dry. Here's the evidence. Here's the crime. Here's the proof. Do something. It's not always how it works. Even with the proof, they don't always charge. And not because the crime wasn't committed, but simply, mainstream media or news cycles. That can't be a reason they choose not to. It's just not fair to the victims and allows the perpetrator to keep doing it to other people more and more and more and more, thinking that they got away with it the first 20 times. So they're going to keep getting away with it the next 20 times. Does that seem like that should be something that we're okay with? I don't think so. I don't think so. I need to grab a water, but before I do that, I haven't been feeling too hot lately. So, I haven't been able to find the full interrogation of Aaron. I think we're going to have to save that for tomorrow and I'll find it, or even request it for that matter. But Bored Housewife, thankfully, gave us this, which is shocking and crazy. Brian Enton, one of my favorite people when it comes to getting deep dives on information, did this one about 6 hours ago, and we're going to watch it real quick. Oh, you guys know it's no secret. I have a lot of health issues. I am not well. And so I need more water than most. My hydration isn't great. And even though I drink a ton of water, it starts to make me dizzy. I also have POTS. So I'm going to grab water while this plays.
County, Kentucky right now. This is where the sheriff shot and killed the judge right in the judge's chambers. I'm investigating what happened, and there is a lot more to the story. Allegations of a secret sex ring. I'm looking into all of it for this edition of Brian Enton Investigates. Hey guys, so I've got two really, really interesting interviews coming up from Kentucky. First of all, a woman who I spoke to who said that she had sex with the judge countless times. The judge who was murdered. She said she had sex with him countless times to get out of crimes. And she says that is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the corruption. Also, a jailer, a different woman who worked in the jail as a guard, who says that there were sex parties going on in and around the jail. And she goes into detail. So you're going to hear from both of those women in a second. First, let me give you guys some of the backstory here, catch you up if you haven't been following this case. Former Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins has been jailed since the killing last September of the judge. It was caught on surveillance camera. This is in Whitesburg, Kentucky. That's where I was. And again, just think about this. This is a sheriff, the county sheriff, killing the judge. So this is extremely unusual. And from the moment this happened, I knew there had to be more to the story here. Steins is accused of fatally shooting Letcher County District Judge Kevin Mullins in the judge's chamber. And Mullins died at the scene. And Steins, again, who was the sheriff at the time, surrendered without incident. The surveillance video shows a man who looks just like Steins pulling out a gun.
There's 194 of you
sat at his desk,
over on
and the man
X.
walked around the desk, then
hop
pointed
on
at
over
the gun at the judge, and
YouTube.
then fired again. Authorities haven't
And
yet
join the
released a
live chat
motive for
on
the
YouTube
shooting, but this is where things get
from
really interesting here when you start to peel back the layers. The judge, according to lawsuits that we've looked into and people that we've talked to, could have been involved in a sex for favors plot. The judge was connected to a sex for favors scheme when women on house arrest exchanged sexual acts for special treatment, and this is according to a lawsuit. Now, since the murder of Judge Mullins, everyone has speculated as to Sheriff Steins' motive for killing Mullins. The reason behind the shooting, according to some locals, could be that Judge Mullins, again, was involved in this sex for favors scandal, demanded that Steins keep his mouth shut about it when a lawsuit was filed by one of the victims. And at this point, at least 2 women that we know of have filed lawsuits who say that they were forced to have sex or they were told that they would have to go back to jail. And so that takes us back to where we are now, these women coming forward, including a woman who I interviewed named Taya Adams, who sat down with me. I went to her home in Kentucky, and she said that she had sex with the judge to get out of trouble. She acknowledges that the corruption is widespread. She also acknowledges that she's been in and out of trouble for addiction, and has been in and out of jail, but said that actually made her the perfect victim, and says she is telling the truth about what happened. Listen to this. So, what was your first interaction with the judge?
I knew him before because my sister worked for the Commonwealth Attorney for a really long time. Like, I grew up in his office and stuff. So whenever he got elected to be Commonwealth Attorney, and we moved over into City Hall, and then Kevin was
corruption sometimes runs deep,
was like
folks.
Across the road from it. And I was kind of like informal intern in there, like learning office management and stuff. And I went over to his office to learn how to take a deposition. And that was the first interaction that I had with him as far as the sex and stuff goes.
What happened?
I gave him oral with my shirt pulled down. And whenever we were done, he threw money in my face, told me to clean myself up, and reminded me that I knew better than to tell my sister.
And what was his job at that time?
Assistant Commonwealth Attorney. And we would do sex parties and perform shows and have sex with them for money. Things like that.
Where were the parties?
Various places. There are different cabins. There's an apartment down like toward Thornton that they would use. It's got like mirrored ceilings and a bidet and a sex swing and all the things. Yeah.
Did you feel like you could say no?
No. No, and they would make sure to make you feel as small and degraded and belittled as possible.
Or they can charge you, right?
To take your power away,
What sort of things?
How you
But
victimize
also,
people
like,
in
I have to
positions
say,
of
like,
power.
we were having fun too. Like we were doing drugs, we was doing coke, doing a lot of cocaine, partying, like it wasn't like they were just like, they weren't raping like physically, like, what people think about when
They're
they hear the
raping
word
your
rape.
mind.
It was consensual, but it was the thing that we were so young, and then they used it against us and to destroy our lives later.
How so?
With the legal system. Of
course.
And CPS. Systematically removing your whole life, piece by piece.
Yeah, keep you shut up.
Did they ever tell you that
quiet.
you couldn't say anything?
Yeah. I mean, that was just a given, and like who would believe it anyway? Because
No one's going to believe
the
you,
whole
or they're
town
going to
was
cover it
doing
up.
Nobody cares. They're all swingers. It's all a big party to them. It was just like so normal.
Did you ever have sex with him after he became judge?
Yeah.
When he was the judge?
Yes. I've had sex with him in the chambers. I've had sex with him upstairs.
You had sex in the chambers?
Yes.
How did that?
It was not the room that's on film. That's on where that camera is, where the murder and stuff happened. That's not the room that was always the chambers. I don't know. Like, I think it might be behind that where it was, but there was like a different desk and everything in there. That's not the same room.
Or maybe
how did that
they
happen?
changed the desk and stuff.
What?
The sex in the chambers. I mean, what?
We would just like, sometimes we would just go over there and hang out, and he'd be like, just hang out. Let me go sit on the bench for a while. I'll be in a minute. And everybody would come back there and smoke and stuff after. The girls who, they would bring them up from the jail for the house arrest people and stuff. They would have sex all over the place.
I'm
with
sure
them,
there's a
too.
spot with no
From the
camera that
jail.
he
Yeah.
knows of.
Were you ever there when that happened?
Yeah.
You saw it?
Yeah. Yeah, I knew the girls personally. Yeah. They were my friends and family. They were the people that we lived with on the streets.
So they would
The
bring
other ones that they've done the same thing to and taken their kids and slammed them and put them with all these big crazy charges.
So, I mean, you're saying it like it's so normal, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
So the judge would have sex
It becomes
with
normal
inmates from the jail.
in that area.
Yes.
And you saw it.
Yes. I was part of it. I was one of them. Not just from being in jail, like coming in off the street and seeing them. Yeah.
How did they keep it a secret?
It wasn't a secret.
Yeah, I was going to say, it probably wasn't a secret. The only
Wasn't a
secret it
secret.
was to the rest of the world.
Why did you
Nobody would
feel like
listen,
you had to have
probably.
sex with the judge?
Because he's the one with the power. He holds my entire life in his hands. He's the one that makes the decisions over whether I get to keep my children or not. He's the one that makes the decisions on whether I go to jail or whether I get a like they would drug test me
Get
all the
charged.
time, and I would pass it, and social services would come in and say like, no, she failed it, and I would have to make them lab it every time because I wasn't failing it. That was the one good thing that Kevin did for me when my twins, we fought for them for months, finally got them back in the home. Social services was so harassing and so bad that he called her out in court. He said, that's enough. He said, you have taken this too far, and I'm reporting you to Frankfurt. And he called the ombudsman.
Yeah, but nothing happens. The ombudsman doesn't do anything.
To supposedly open an investigation against the child services.
They don't do anything.
And I never heard nothing about it.
Shocker.
Did
they
the
didn't
judge
investigate.
ever say you have to do this, or if you do this,
you come see me 3 times and
That's
we'll
a
take care of
great
this.
sentiment, Sharon.
If it's a ticket or something, you know, or you get some minor charge, some petty charge. Come visit me a few times. We'll take care of it.
He would say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And how many women do you think were also doing this?
Probably hundreds.
Total over the years, hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds if you think about that.
Yeah. And not just for the women who had charges. Like if your man or somebody, your child is in there.
Birthday today.
Then you could go see him for
that.
that.
My
too.
niece's birthday.
And everybody knew this was going on?
And the grandchild.
Yes.
So what did you
Star,
think when
granddaughter?
the sheriff killed the judge? When
My
you found
heart just like exploded in
He found out what happened. What was happening?
I thought finally somebody is going to see this because now they can't look away.
Mm-hmm.
They have to look. They have to see what's happening here. And then it's been all this time and still not seeing anything happening.
Grandsons.
You know,
right.
Nobody's saying anything. People have been making videos and coming out with their story for a long time, but they're being retaliated against to the point that they're leaving this. They've had to pack up and leave homes that they own here and leave the state and go rent somewhere else. Because they've ran them out of town.
Do you feel nervous talking about this? Have you been retaliated against?
I'm a little bit nervous.
But who cares at this
point?
point?
I also know that God's got this.
You
know,
who cares at this point?
And that our kids, I don't want our kids to have to grow up in this town like it has been for us. Because once they get their hooks in you, they never let you go.
They
you
never let go.
You don't get to choose your life. You don't choose your own path. They do that for you.
Has anyone tried to intimidate you into not talking?
Oh, I'm sure.
Like comments on Facebook and yes, a lot of victim blaming, shaming, stuff like that, petty stuff. But then also we had the message from the jailer's sister that said that they started it, she's going to finish it. And she's on Facebook like slandering Liz, saying she went through like hours of footage to catch a freeze frame of her eye like glitching like in the middle of a blink or something and put it on there on Facebook. Look, she's high. We need to call CPS to come take her kids.
There's something wrong with these people that do this shit.
On you,
the
and
cult does some of
they
this
will
shit.
take your children unfounded for nothing, for no reason.
Confounded.
Or like in my case, the court ordered me to take Suboxone and then showed up at the hospital when I gave birth.
They cannot order you to
because
take
she
a
had
drug.
Suboxone in her system. She had Subutex in her system. They said my prescription wasn't valid. It was. My clinic had closed like a couple weeks before I went into labor, but I still had a whole month's prescription for that month with pills.
Yeah,
left
because
over
you
that
got
I
to find a
hadn't
new
taken.
provider if they close.
And that was their grounds for taking her.
How many times would you say you had sex with the judge in the courthouse?
Countless.
Countless.
Or
the problem is that it perpetuates out to things like CPS.
Yeah,
this is something people have been speaking out for decades and no one listened.
I don't know. Have you seen my record? It's a long one.
Usually happens when you're an addict.
Basically,
he's been part of every charge I've ever had.
And when you would get a charge, what would he say?
He'd laugh at me, tell me come see him. We'll get it figured out or whatever.
Taken care of.
But he never did. He ended up just like slamming me. They slammed me with all them other crazy charges there at the end. Like once they were done with me, I think that they got scared.
Why?
And something about it is they don't like for us to get sober. When we get sober, we start to heal.
Then you
and
start
we
to talk.
speak on who hurt us.
Then you
And
start
they
to
don't like
talk.
that. So they'll send people out to relapse you and pull you back into their nonsense.
Yeah, because if
Do you
heal,
know why
you
the
start
sheriff
talking.
killed the judge?
I don't, but I have my
You
own
guess.
suspicions and beliefs.
His daughter.
What do you think?
I think that he's seen that nothing was ever going to stop. Nothing was ever going to change unless something big happened.
Somebody ended it.
I don't know what it was that triggered him to actually do that. Like, I don't know. I couldn't say. But knowing everything, and then if you notice, they put that charge on Ben Fields, right? Like he's the only one or something. And Mickey ended up getting named in a lawsuit for not doing anything about it or not properly training them. So I wonder, like, if he was like this is so far out of my hands. What am I supposed to do? It's like all these people here that have evidence, like physical evidence of all these horrible things that they've done to them, are just hiding it because there's nobody to give it to.
Yeah, who are you going to give it to? More corrupt people?
What
who are going to destroy?
What do you think of it? I mean, what do you make of the sheriff? What is his sort of reputation?
He's got a good reputation. He was well respected. He was always good to me, fair, firm. You know, he'd take you to jail and stuff, but he wasn't like a groper and raper and stuff like the other ones. And he was always good to me.
Did he know about everything going on?
Yeah.
I'm sure he did.
I think it bothered him. Like, I really do. Because I asked for house arrest. I kept asking over and over. I kept saying, Mickey, please let me go on house arrest. Like, this is crazy. And you know these charges on me are crazy. So every time I get him in the elevator, taking me to court, I'm begging. He'd say, well, we'll see. We'll see. And then he never would put me on the list. And it makes me wonder why now.
Maybe that.
Did anything ever happen to you in the jail?
Yeah.
I mean, because you talk about having sex with the judge, but that was mostly when you were out, right? Trying to avoid.
Yeah.
But what about when you were in jail?
Yeah, the jail workers and stuff, a lot of them, they would come up to the doors, stuff, they want to see your titties. They want you to come up so they can put their hands in the beanhole and touch you, things like that. There was like this old stairwell in the middle of the jail across from the mid room. Like they would take girls in there and stuff sometimes.
How do all these officials get away with this?
A men's prison, but thank God I didn't see anything like that.
They run it all. Their rehab programs and stuff, they're all in it together. They all got their hands in it.
It's unfortunate, but it's true.
The drug
all
court,
get
they
paid.
just keep extending your sentence, extending your sentence. How is that? Do you know what happened with my case? We had the fight. They charged us with unlawful imprisonment in a holding cell beside the booking desk. They charged us with unlawful imprisonment, which is kidnapping. That's the charge that stuck. And they told me I had 7.5 years total. I get to prison and get my time sheet. I had 12.5 years.
Whoa.
So I went and sent legal aid. They said once the final judgment is filed, there's nothing else that you can do. It's final. So I did my time.
Appeal.
I made parole upon completion. I did all their programs and stuff that I was eligible to do. And when I got out, they tried to make me to go to drug court. They tried to add drug court on my sentence.
No.
And I threw a fit. I said, no, this is not right. And this was not part of the plea deal. And y'all already screwed me and gave me 5 extra years anyway. Yeah. We're not doing this. My parole officer went back in his office and he came back out and said, well, they agreed that if you would do aftercare for 6 months, that you don't have to go to drug court.
No.
So I did their aftercare. I did their MRT classes, anger management, parenting, you name it, I did it. I served out. I went to go get my gold seal. I was so excited and so proud that I accomplished it and that I was done. I finished it, you know, like I've worked so hard my whole life just to get out from under this place.
I'm getting deja vu right now.
To get my gold seal, my certificate.
For whatever reason.
And he says, the state says they're not going to release you because of your child support until it's paid in full. That just destroyed me. That crushed me. And I still didn't know like what Cool had said for a while after that. Like that's a more recent development when I got on there and seen that I'm on parole till 2099. And I've been trying to find somebody from the outside for a while to look at this case, like, because nothing about it is right.
So for people who aren't from here,
what?
I mean,
can't be on that
a lot of people
for life. That doesn't
have been on drugs.
What?
Does that just make them vulnerable to this whole system?
It does, and they use it. They start giving you drugs as a minor, like so you're already addicted. You're already addicted.
Done.
So they use that.
You want now with you.
Keep control over you.
Do you think
it's diabolical?
Do you think they think, oh, no one will listen to these people because they have records, they have been on drugs,
and that's why they want to keep us messed up and
like
you know,
this day has happened already.
Like
I've
we don't
walked
have any
this
credibility
when I haven't.
Yeah.
I also spoke with a woman who says that she worked in the jail, so she had a very interesting perspective. This is an interview that aired first on News Nation. Look at this. So you worked in the jail?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How long did you work there?
About 3.5 months.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was your job?
Deputy jailer.
And what
I was one of the guards.
One of the guards. So in with all the
taking care of the inmates and stuff like that.
Thank God I never saw something like this in my jail. Deplorable.
Watches. There's a lot of times I was in the booth. Just different things.
When did you realize that something strange was going on at the jail?
Area.
When Ben Fields came in and became an automatic trustee. That was what had made my eyes go, oh, wow. Okay, so our systems aren't
how they're supposed to be, not even in our
No,
guidelines.
it's who you know.
It confused me because, you know, most times in jail, when somebody comes into jail, you're there for a while, and then there's the process of, if you want to become a trustee, which is one of the inmates where they get to do special jobs like helping prepare the food or going out on work release, you have to apply for that. You have to ask for it. You have to show that you have the initiative to want to do it. And Ben Fields, from first day stepping into our jail, was a automatic trustee. Special treatment. It was awful. We have 2 solitaries that is beside the ice box where they keep all these supplies, feminine products, pops, stuff like that, which is supposed to be a one-man cell. At some points, there's 2 or 3 people in there, but there was 2 men that was in that cell that had gotten moved, so that way Ben Fields could be moved into that cell. He got a brand new
Special
bed.
treatment.
He got a brand new flat screen TV, automatic trustee. He had his own pack of cigarettes in the break room, Marlboro red shorts.
What the hell?
It just wasn't fair. You know what I mean?
Clearly not fair.
It just showed the system wasn't how it should be.
Did you ever see anyone having sex?
I never seen anybody having sex, but I had heard stories. One of the female guards specifically was telling me that one of the places she takes male inmates was the storage room, which used to be a stairwell in front of the medication room. It's literally directly across. You can't get in there without a key, and that's where they take them. A lot of times they get took up into the courthouse, especially after hours late at night. Nobody's at work. Nobody's up there, so it's all empty. It's all empty space.
How common was that?
More common than you would want to believe in the court system. Even down to some of my daily supervisors. There'd be girls sign themselves
That was
out
Brian
and
Etten.
take them on home.
I would go sleuthing.
It was sick.
The supervisors
drone
would take the inmates
in the
home
windows.
for the night?
Yes. When there's policy, once an inmate leaves that jail space, you're not supposed to be in contact with them for 6 months. So it was.
We had that
it's
same
one of those
rule.
things. Oh, you're taking them, and then the girls go back and tell them the stories. Oh, I slept with this person when he took me home. You know, it's sick.
Very sick.
What did you think when you were working there?
That it was a brothel. It is all
What it
just
is at that point.
It's all a brothel.
Just
Between
disgusting.
all the employees sleeping with each other and sleeping with the inmates that come in.
Shame
And a lot of them, they are
on you
repeat
people.
offenders. A lot of them are permanent stayers. It's nasty.
Ugh.
It's sickening.
Disgusting.
I've even had one of my personal supervisors go way over the limits of even trying to get my family to force me to be in a relationship with them while I was previously in a already in a relationship. And it's like, sir, like, this is supposed to be a work, you're a work friend. You know what I mean? It's just, it's not a good
Halloween is my favorite holiday.
What would the inmates get in return for having sex with, the leadership?
Extra commissary, probably. I don't know.
For
Money on their
inmates,
books.
The smallest things, unless you're going with one of the overheads. If they're sleeping with the guard, it's mostly for things like cigarettes, time out of the cell, pops, commissary, things like that.
Wow. What did you think when the sheriff shot the judge?
A lot of the corruption was going to come out. I knew that that was going to be the beginning to set everything aside to make people come in and people's voices finally be heard. Because even I believe that the sheriff, he either knew something or something was going on that he knew about that we all might not know about, but he was doing something to protect us.
So the sheriff was your boss? Was the jail separate?
Jail is separate from the
Okay.
police station.
Okay.
Yeah, or the sheriff's office.
Okay.
Disgusting.
Did you know what was going on with the judge?
Yes. No, that's a reverse question of which part of what was going on.
Did you know, inmates were having sex with the judge?
Yes. Pretty much that's kind of the thing that everybody in the county knows, but it was confirmed to me after working in the jail, especially after being invited to a party myself.
Gross.
What happened?
I said no thank you. I declined and kind of just went back on to what I was doing. It was just one of those things of, was I just asked that? Like, did that just really...
To a sex party?
Yes.
Who asked you?
It was Mr. Mullins himself.
What did he say?
He had talked about they like do little get-togethers and everything. He didn't explain it to me as in a party. It was a get-together of some of the higher ups. I'm not going to say names for other purposes, but for some of the other higher ups, and it was just a get-together, them doing like a little like meeting, like a lunch, not a lunch, dinner. Sorry, I keep getting mixed up, but he didn't really get too far into it. But you know, if you're being asked to go to a late night get together with the higher ups, that it's not nothing to do with eating.
Right. At least not food.
So you knew what was going on.
Yes. Other coworkers, and or my ex coworkers, they come out and even ask me now not to mention it. They've even them participating in the parties themselves. I had another one ask me to go to another one of Mullins' get-togethers, and I declined it again because it's one of those things. I was raised better than that. You know what I mean? Our Southern goals, especially being raised in Southeastern Kentucky, we know better than that. Our mamas raised us better than that. Our grandmamas raised us better than that. Our great-grandmothers raised us better than that. But a lot of the cases for a lot of the girls, especially like our girls like Ty or like C. Bentley or a lot of the other ones, they are forced into doing stuff like this, like that, for either help with cases or it's just a lot. It's a lot to deal with.
And there's other men and stuff too around here that host and do things and film, make their own movies and stuff too.
That's why I say a lot of them, the higher ups is what I call them. Especially from where I'm in a court case right now, I don't want like saying a lot of names because you never know what they could do to us, especially for retaliation. But if you know, you know in the county. Everybody knows. They might not speak on it. They might not want to be involved in it because of the fear of retaliation, because there's so many people that has come out and spoke out about what Judge Mullins has done or other crimes that have been participated in just regards of Mullins and Mickey Steins and all this. And they go to speak out and they either end up overdosed when they're clean or you don't hear from them again.
Shocker.
And I get that. And for all the people
Nobody
that have
cares
spoke
about
up,
junkies,
I'm
addicts,
unbelievably proud of them, especially our girls like Ty. Like, I'm so proud of y'all, especially speaking out. Things like this that happen in small communities and small towns, even if we're afraid to speak up on it, we need to, because is this what we want for our next generation? Is that what we want for our kids? What we're going through?
I make
what our past people have gone through. Do we want that for them? No, I don't want that for my daughter. I don't want that for my
packet
son.
Of cookies.
I want better for them. I want an actual community that's not based on if you got money and know people and if
signs,
you're willing to get on your knees or on your back. It's sickening. And I want better.
Yeah, but
for
who
them.
wants to listen?
I want better for not just my babies, for Lexi's babies, for Ty's babies, for all of them. My grandchildren one day. I want better for them all.
So the latest on this case is there was just a hearing for the sheriff.
Yesterday.
He's been in jail ever since the murder of the judge. His attorney is now asking for a $50,000 cash bond, saying that he should be let out, saying that he's not a flight risk. There's been no decision right now on that. He remains behind bars right now. But it seems the information that we're beginning to get on this is just unraveling, again, of what was going on behind the scenes in this county, what may have led up to this very unusual shooting where a sheriff shot a judge. So I'm going to stay on it. I'm still continuing to talk to people. There are a lot of people that I've talked to there who are nervous to go on camera to tell their stories, but are sort of talking to us behind the scenes. So I'll keep you guys posted. All right, see you later.
I mean, that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But nobody's going to want to listen to people who were addicts or are addicts or, they just like to think of people even in recovery as they must be the worst of the worst type people. It's funny because some of the best people I've ever met have been addicts in recovery. Some of the most kind, giving, loving, not selfish, not judgmental people I have ever met have been addicts who've been in recovery. It's really sad because most people in recovery have some really awful stories of things that have happened in their life and what led them to use or drink to begin with, right? And some of these people could probably write books about their lives. And I saw a lot of, we bring up things like trafficking, sex ring and trafficking. I was a dancer for 10 years. I saw a lot of that stuff happening behind closed doors. And it's unfortunate because some people choose that lifestyle and you always try to talk them out of it. Like countless people have tried to talk out of it. Like, you're worth more than that. You are worth more than that. Know your worth. But we're talking about people who other people are taking advantage of. And so there are people who are just lost and broken, and people take advantage of them in those states and use it against them. And that's sort of what we just heard from that, which was people in positions of power oftentimes will use that power for really awful things. And when the victims speak up, no one listens. No one listens unless you have some sort of connection. And even then, you might not get someone to help or listen. And it's unfortunate because it happens all over this country on a daily basis. But what I can assure you is that story that mainstream media won't tell, I'll tell. There's a reason why I don't really trust mainstream media anymore. And part of the reason is they won't talk about the stories, certain stories they want nothing to do with and they won't touch. I'll tell those stories and then some, because everybody's story deserves to be told, and the attention deserves to be on things that need to be solved. No more hush hush, like sweep it under the rug style shit. If there is a story that no mainstream media wants to touch, usually it's because their higher ups might have a connection to it or have been paid to sort of not report on something like that, which is why mainstream media has gotten so untrustworthy, is really the only word I can throw at it, is untrustworthy. And those are the stories that I take more serious than anything, because these people have been begging for years for someone to listen, someone to tell their story, someone to look into this, and nothing is done. Or when it is and someone finally starts looking into it, they're threatened into silence. I don't care who you are. It will not be silent. You will not threaten, harass, intimidate, spread rumors and lies to silence me. I will not be quiet. And there's only one of me. So I really hope that many more people choose to not be silent, because by being silent is what allows these criminals, these people taking advantage of others, to keep doing it. And we've seen it in many cases going back the last 3 years, where people in positions of power just keep victimizing people over and over and over and over, because too many people are afraid to speak up. They remain silent for fear. Don't remain silent. The longer you remain silent, the longer it allows that person to get away with it. You got to stand together. You have to stand together, holding hands. And, that power of multiple people standing together against an evil, whether it's a person or an entity or multiple people, is extremely powerful. Don't give up. Don't think there's nobody to listen. There is someone to listen. We will listen. I have never turned away somebody who has asked for my help, and I never will. It's unfortunate because there are so many stories that just are not told. My friend Mickey's been missing for almost 20 years. And still to this day, he's not found. And the FBI is offering a reward, for that matter, into finding him, or obviously his remains, since he's been missing for so long. It's coming up on that anniversary soon. Let me see if anything new popped up. 8 months ago, somebody did a spotlight on it. I don't even know who this girl is. Somebody did a 4-minute spotlight on it 2 months ago. 50 state cold case spotlight. Sipping on some crime. I don't know who that is. But most people don't cover Mickey's case. And back when he went missing, one of the big reasons why they didn't cover his case is because he was a male. Okay, unfortunately. And he was Spanish, and he was somebody who had a history of using substances. So he didn't matter in the eyes of mainstream media. He wasn't a white, blonde little girl that went missing, right? He was a 20-something-year-old Hispanic male. Well, his life matters just as much as anyone else's. This is his mother, and this is the FBI.
Gonzalez, who is the mother,
Marina is his mom.
runs the criminal investigation division. I have Myrna Gonzalez, who is the mother
on.
of Miguel Olivares, and Detective Jeff Tully, who's been working on this case. The reason we have this conference today is we've had some new developments in this case, and we're working very diligently over the last 4 or 5 months. And we've partnered with the FBI throughout this investigation, but more so recently to request some more information from the public. So Resident Agent in Charge, Chris Peavy, is going to make some statements and explain what the FBI is doing here today and making contribution to this investigation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christopher Peavy. I'm the supervisory senior resident agent for the FBI in Maine. 18 years ago, 24-year-old Miguel Olivares vanished without a trace. Our hearts are with his family, especially his mom, Myrna, who's been haunted by his mysterious disappearance for years. The FBI's Southern Maine Gang Task Force has been working with the Portland Police Department to locate Miguel. Despite extensive investigative efforts, we still don't know where he is. That's why today we're renewing our call for the public's assistance, and the FBI is announcing a reward of up to $10,000 for information leading to Miguel's location for the recovery of his remains. Our goal with this reward is to incentivize anyone with information about Miguel's whereabouts to come forward and contact us. Miguel was born in Boston, was well loved by his family, and was last seen here in Portland back in 2006 at the Platinum Plus Club on Riverside Street. We strongly believe someone out there knows what happened to him after he left the club, which is why we're asking anyone with information to come forward. You can contact us at 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit a tip online at tips.fbi.gov. We'd like to be able to put much needed closure. In the meantime, we'll continue to support our partners here.
Where is Mickey?
We've offered investigative, technical, and analytical support to help them close this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I just want to really emphasize the importance of this for their family and to get some answers and closure for them, to get some resolution with locating Miguel. You know, the family's been dealing with this for 18 years, and they've been relentless in their search for him. So I think it's extremely important that the significance of any information and how important it would be to help the family and obviously
any.
And just out of respect for the family, they don't want any comments, so they're not going to make any comments. But they came up from Boston today, obviously, to be here for this.
They shouldn't have to make any comments. Marina has made enough comments.
Any questions?
Can you share anything about like what the new developments were, like that led to this reward?
We hope that covering the case has led to some of those developments.
Yeah, we probably can. I'm Lieutenant Nick Goodman. I work in the Criminal Investigation Division. Detective Tully and Detective Haggerty are actually the primary detectives working the case. We're not going to really get into details on specifics of the case, but we have had movement. We always talk about the football or the pendulum needle moving. We had movement in that direction of positive gains for us, and that's kind of what we're hitting on now. So we reached out to the FBI to give us that little push that we think we need to hopefully take this to the finish line and bring Myrna and her family. We talk about closure, but I don't even know if it's going to be closure, but just steps in the direction of finding out.
Bring Mickey home.
Do you believe that he's dead?
Yes, he's clearly not alive. He wouldn't be missing still.
And he was hoping that somebody can reach his remains. And I know the family is seeking this closure. It's easy for us to talk about death, right? Because it's not our child. I've talked to Myrna.
Yeah.
I mean, quite a bit over the last 3 or 4 months. Most most every week we're on the phone or texting, or I drive down and meet with her and the detectives down in Boston. Is it logical that he's deceased? Probably.
Yep.
But again, it's easy for us to say that because it's not our child. There's always hope, that he is alive and out there, but we
I
really
wish.
know those leads long ago, whether it's the hospitals or different clinics, wondering if he has a head injury or forgot who he was. We kind of went over all that back in 2006. We didn't come up with anything.
It's just not feasible anymore.
Most logical answer is probably yes, but
I believe there was this original theory that he was lured up here, possibly the victim of murder, because he had some in possession of a cell phone that had names and numbers containing known drug dealers. And now I see at the top of this press release, Southern Maine Bureau, the FBI, Southern Maine Gang Counselor. So is this all sort of, is anything ever come from them? Phone, for example?
yeah, we wouldn't get into details of that or specifics with the open investigation.
I wish they
think
would.
It was released partly back in 06, 07 when we started the investigation. But we wouldn't comment on that now.
Were you able to identify any of the people who left that person who left the club with Miguel?
Yes, we've identified everybody that we have identified. We've borderline talked to all of them. I don't think there's a lot of people that we don't know who's involved at this point.
For many years, they didn't know who it was that left with him.
Were there ever any suspects, and do you believe anyone at the club was involved in this?
We have a working theory, but we're not going to get into it with you guys right now. We do have a working theory. We've shared part of that with families. We haven't even shared some of this with the family. We want that information out. If we get the information out, it leads to people making up ideas to try to get a reward, and that's not what we want. We want people to come forward with the truth. So
I don't necessarily think that's true. If you gave us more information to go on, maybe we could do some fucking sleuthing. I mean, I know more than what they're going to tell the public, but it's my personal knowledge. Knowledge that they already have.
Was that a question or a statement? What was that?
I was asking if she wanted to not take any questions.
No, Myrna doesn't want to take any questions.
Can people give information anonymously? And
Sure. We have the wanted posters have tip lines on it. The FBI's is on it. Portland PD's is on it. We have a line that you can say, I think it's 874-8575, area code 207. You can be anonymous. You can leave a tip. You can leave an anonymous message on the phone on the tip line as well.
Have any of these reward offerings produced any results? I know we did something similar not too long ago in Northern Maine.
I know Specialist TV could probably answer the better than me.
People really come forward.
They do, and there have been cold cases closed. Sometimes, as we were talking about before this with the family, it can provide an incentive if there are.
I hate that they call this a cold case.
There's less fear this far out.
Because it's my friend. So
this might provide the incentive to come forward. I just want to clarify though, the background for the Southern Maine Gang Task Force is we actually work here in the building. We have an office on the 3rd floor.
somebody does
That's
come
the
forward.
close relationship we have with Portland Police Department. So that's kind of their nexus to the FBI, and that's why we're providing these services. So it's not to say anything about the circumstances of this situation.
Imagine
These resources should have been given to Mickey when he first went missing. Just saying.
Fair to say?
I'm interacted with detectives in Boston. I know Lieutenant Goodman has.
I'll just say, yeah, we've worked closely with them during this investigation, especially most recently. Time for one more question, if anybody has one. All right, thank you all very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It bothers me because this is my friend, right? My friend who has been missing for almost 20 years. This was last year. This was 8 months ago.
Real cases, real people. New England's Unsolved with Bob Ward.
Bob
In
Ward does it every year.
2006, a young Boston man, Miguel
Thank God for
Olivares,
Bob.
disappeared while visiting a former girlfriend in Portland, Maine. Now, Miguel had no other ties to Maine. He's never been seen again. In this New England's Unsolved, Miguel's mother tells me why she believes her son was set up for murder.
Nothing has changed. It's just more frustration, more anger. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Myrna Gonzalez has been looking for her son, Miguel Olivares, since she last talked to him in early September 2006. Miguel was 24 years old. How hard is this time of year for you?
Really hard. September 3rd was the 18 years. Holidays are right around the corner. Yeah, really hard.
In 2006, Miguel Olivares lived in Boston, but he was last seen in Portland, Maine, where he was visiting an on-again, off-again girlfriend who was dancing at a gentleman's club called...
So let me just, for context, because Bob Ward doesn't give context, and I know Myrna likes to say that they were on again, off again girlfriend. They were together at the time. I was living with her as a roommate. We were roommates, and so he stayed there all the time as another roommate because they were dating. And we both worked here at Platinum Plus Gentlemen's Club, which had a, topless donut shop attached to it that would open as the club closed at 4 a.m. The donut shop would open up around 5 or 6 and would go until noontime. The weekend this all happened, I didn't work. So we would go up because you didn't have to have like a schedule. You could go in any night you wanted, work as many hours as you want, or not work as many hours as you want, and leave. Obviously, it's Portland, Maine, so we didn't just work a couple hours and then drive home. We'd get a hotel or stay with someone we knew up there, and there was a hotel right across the street. You could get better rates if you, worked at the club. They give you a better rate because you would be renting from them all the time. Because a lot of people came from out of state to work there. People didn't want to work in the same state. I mean, eventually years later, I moved to working in my same state because it became a lot trying to go. I mean, it's 2.5 hours up there. You can cut off a little bit of time if you're not driving like a grandma, but essentially about 2.5 hours from Quincy area. So what we would do is we'd go up on like a Thursday or something, stay for a week, or stay for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then come back Monday. And so the weekend she went up and he met her up there, I didn't go. I had a car. So when I would go up with her, we would both just drive in my car. She didn't have a car. So she would take the bus up. So this weekend, I didn't go. I had, plenty of money. I didn't feel like going all the way up that weekend. So I didn't go. I was home. And so since I was home, my car is home, right? So she took the bus up. And then the next day, Western Unioned him the money to take the bus up and just be there with her. So she wasn't by herself, He went to the club, and at some point throughout the night, he was sort of being up her butt. So that's like, there's a rule that you're not supposed to have your boyfriends or husbands in the club anyway, because it's fights will happen, or it's a deterrent to other people if they're like up your behind for you to make any money. And that doesn't make the club any money if you're not making any money, if you're not booking dances or, getting people to buy you drinks or champagne or any of that, then the club's not making money off of you either. So what happened was he was sort of deterring people basically by being kind of up or behind. And so they said, listen, you gotta go, right? You gotta leave. And so the bouncers said, hey, like you gotta go. And so from what the girlfriend who was my roommate told me, at some point, Mickey was looking to get some drug. I'm not really sure which drug. And, she had given him money just so that he wasn't, he could go get something to eat. He wasn't, sitting at the hotel by himself with no way to like do something or get something to eat or go do something. You can't be sitting here with me. Go do something. So she gave him some money. And from what I was told, is that he talked to one of the chefs, like sous chefs, like another cook in the kitchen, and that cook left with him. Now, as far as I knew, they were up until at least this year, they were never able to identify the guy that left with Mickey, based on the information that they already had, which is that he talked to someone in the kitchen. From that point on, nobody sees him again at all, ever again after that. And so the video is from 2006, and the security system we had at the club was, I mean, there was cameras, but the screen to look at it was about this big. Okay. And it was split into a 4, 6. Then there was multiple of these, you know, small screens like this that were split into 4 or 6 little boxes where the cameras were. And they were very grainy. Again, this is 2006. So technology is not clear like it is now. And even now you'll get some that are grainy, but this was like old technology. So you really cannot see who is with him. It could be any white person, realistically. So yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for me to not be there. We sometimes would work on the same days. Sometimes we wouldn't. One, you know, I might take 2 weeks off. She might take 2 weeks off. I might take a week off. So it wasn't out of the ordinary that I wouldn't be there. I just wish I was at that point. You know, I wish I was. I also didn't usually stay in hotels. I had a friend that lived out there, so I would stay with him. And she used to stay at the hotels a lot of the time. So, I mean, I honestly wish that I had just went and worked that weekend, because I feel like maybe if I had went and I saw him leaving, then I could have been like, oh, hey, like, I have a car. Let's go get something to eat until she's done working or whatever. And maybe he wouldn't have, you know, gone missing. But then I think to myself, if I was working, I probably wouldn't have just left unless it was like 3 or 4 in the morning anyway. Like, until I'm done working, I probably wouldn't have left anyway. So I don't know. It's that survivor's guilt where you think about the what ifs and what you could have done. I do the same thing when it comes to my fiance who died in a house fire in the same year. I think about, and you know who made me feel better about that? Mickey. When I was going through all that, it was the same year, earlier in the year, it was March. And Mickey made me feel better. You know, he's like, there's nothing, I was working here at the time when the fire happened. And I kept beating myself up like, what if I didn't work that week and I wouldn't have been in Maine? I got the call that my fiance died in that house fire on my way home from Maine. I was in New Hampshire when I got the call, and I was told to pull over, and I didn't, and I should have it, but I didn't. And Mickey's the one who stepped in to sort of pick me up of the pieces that I was after that happened. So for him to just go missing, you know, months later in September sucked. Mickey loved people, and he had such a big heart. He had a special needs child, so he understood me having a special needs child, you know. And when I would come home from my regular like job, he would like, oh, well, did you eat yet? I'd be like, oh, I ate at work, I'm fine. He'd be like, no. And he would literally make me sit down. He'd be like, I'm cooking dinner. And it's like, dude, you guys already ate. And it's like, I don't care, you didn't eat anything yet. Like, that's just who he was as a person. And it sucks that the world was deprived of him as a human for all this time, because even though he had his issues of using, a lot of people get sober, right? A lot of people get sober and they move on with their lives. And I feel like he could have been one of those people that helped a whole lot of people when he did. And knowing him as a person, just knowing what he was like as a person, he cared about people, right? He cared about people. He wasn't a shitty person. He didn't, you know, leave people out or not think of others. He cared about people, especially the people that he knew and loved. And it's hard for me to swallow that after all these years, they have not been able to find him, to bring him home. And it's like, Portland's a city, but it's still Maine, folks. There are endless amounts of woods everywhere. And it's like, you know, when we were going up to Maine for vacation, we got closer and closer to the New Hampshire Maine border. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, you know, you're driving the highway and there's just lined with woods. And you think to yourself, like, if I stop the car right now and I start searching, am I going to find him in these woods next to the highway? Just an easy place to probably dump a body, right? Next to in the woods on a highway, just endless woods. It's like, where is he? He's somewhere. But finding him in Maine, they could have dumped him anywhere. I feel like if it was an accidental overdose and he was around people who didn't want to call the cops, he still would have been found at some point by now. So 19 years later, almost, just in a couple weeks, it'll be 19 years. Where is Mickey? Where is Miguel? Right? Because those of us who knew him and loved him didn't call him Miguel. We called him Mickey. He had this big tattoo on his back that said, Papi Chulo. And we used to make fun of him all the time. We used to be like, oh, you think so highly of yourself, do you, Mickey? Papi Culo. We used to joke with him. And it sucks as someone who cares about him and loves him that here we are 19 years later with no answers as to where the hell is Mickey. His mother has been relentless, and the only person that has continued to do this case over and over every year is Bob Ward. Bob Ward of New England Unsolved is the only person that every single year did the story with the very minimal information that he had on it. Or at least the very minimal information they're allowed to give out in mainstream media. I'm not mainstream media, so I'll give you what I know, right? There's a couple other theories for the gang task force, and there are reasons for that. Do I think any of those theories have plausibility to them? No. Mickey didn't have a cell phone, so there was no tracking of him after that. Once he left the club, he didn't have a phone on him. There was no cell phone. He didn't have a phone. He could use the phone at the hotel. I'm not going to say her name, but the girlfriend assumed, my other roommate assumed, like that's what he would usually do. There's no reason for him to take her phone, and he didn't have a cell phone of his own. So he didn't have a phone, a way to call anyone. There's no way to track him. And so when she got home that night and he's not there, she's thinking, he's out somewhere. He'll turn up. He knows what day I'm leaving. He knows when I'm leaving. Like, he'll turn up. He's probably just partying or whatever. But then he didn't come back. Didn't show back up. And he's still not been found.
Platinum Plus. At one point, Miguel
That's
was
the
asked
video.
to leave.
Grainy.
The moment was recorded on the club surveillance camera. These are the last known images of
Look at
Miguel
those.
Oliveras.
So
Once he's escorted out on closed circuit TV, you see him kind of walk into the parking lot and then never
the parking
seen again.
lot's the last
ever.
one.
Portland, Maine Detective Lieutenant Nick Goodman is
They have
looking
his
for
mother's
Miguel.
DNA.
Recently, dive teams searched a quarry near the Platinum
The
Plus.
reservoir, and I
Police
was
have
like-
scoured area woods with cadaver dogs. They've contacted area hospitals. They have found nothing.
This one's different. It's essentially like he vanished after he walked out of that parking lot.
18 years
Where did
later,
he
Miguel's
go?
mother believes her son is still in Maine, a victim of foul play.
As a mother, I feel it. Someone hurt him. He's out there somewhere in Maine.
Myrna Gonzalez believes Miguel's former girlfriend lured Miguel to Maine.
I don't
Myrna
think
tells
that
me the
happened at
girlfriend
all.
didn't just invite the reluctant Miguel to Portland. She paid for his Greyhound bus
always
ticket.
did.
After Miguel disappeared, Myrna's sister-in-law says she talked to that girlfriend, and a story emerged about a BlackBerry phone in Miguel's possession that actually belonged to a
From a
Boston drug
gangster.
dealer.
They told her, well, we need that BlackBerry phone back. And she did tell my sister-in-law, because they got in touch with her. She says, well, I had to call the guy to come get the phone, because if not, they would have hurt me, my kids. Yeah.
You believe Miguel was lured up to Maine
I don't
to get that
Yes, he
BlackBerry
was.
phone,
Believe that at all.
and he could have been killed over it,
Because
too.
he had been there many times before that.
Miguel's
That wasn't the
disappearance
first time
is
he went
still
there.
an open case in Portland, Maine. Investigators have had no luck talking to the former girlfriend or to anyone who came in contact with Miguel. As for that BlackBerry phone, is that somehow connected to this?
No, I can't say yes or no on that. I think there's no such thing as coincidence in police work, so we like to kind of piece it together as we go.
In Boston, Myrna Gonzalez continues to live her life, grieving for her son, desperate for answers.
I just want to find him and bring him home. I need people to come forward.
I tried to reach Miguel's former girlfriend, but I never heard back from her. If you have any information about the disappearance of Miguel Oliveras, contact police in Portland, Maine at the number on your screen. For New England's Unsolved, I'm Bob Ward.
I understand her want and need to have it be someone. But the way that was just framed as if he hadn't taken the bus up there with her many, many times, or she hadn't sent him money for the ticket many other times. He had been up there a bunch of times. That wasn't the first time he was up in Maine while she worked. And the phone is something that he did take from someone. She wasn't there for that. That was while, I mean, he's from Hyde Park. So he would go back and forth between his mother's house in Hyde Park and our apartment in Quincy. So, something he did while he was home there and not at our house. So the phone itself really has no anything to do with this. And she cooperated with the entire investigation. I get it. As a mother, I understand her want it to be like a setup so that it can be explained away. Unfortunately, that's just not the truth of the matter, right? If that was the truth, I'd say so. I don't speak to that person anymore anyway. Haven't probably in years and years and years, but it's just not the case, right? I believe something happened to him when he left the club that night, and maybe they tried to rob him for the money he had. I don't know. Something clearly went terribly wrong with the person that he left with. The person he left with wasn't from Massachusetts, had nothing to do with Massachusetts in any way, or the girlfriend. So, it to me, it's staggering. It just, I get it. As a parent, I get why she would want it to be like a setup with the phone, and uh, it's just not it. That's just not it. That's just not what happened to Mickey. You know, that's, I mean, with what I know personally, and with what I know, the people who are at the club have told me, is they are the ones that asked him to leave. Like, she didn't. In order to be part of a setup, you know what I'm saying? He's the one who went and talked to people he had known, mind you, in the club, because he had been there many times before. This was not the first time he was there. So he had made, like, acquaintances or friends with some of the people that work there. And so the guy in the kitchen was someone that he knew of. There's a lot of you over on X, actually, 237 of you over on X. Those of you on X, join us on YouTube, or attempt to join us on YouTube. I'm actually going to wrap it up in a second here, but when you do watch again, try to join us on YouTube. We have a great community of live chat. Now, if you want to help support the channel, there are a bunch of different ways you can do so. You can hit the like button. You can hit the subscribe button. That always helps. Make sure you change your bell notifications to all. Instead of most, it automatically is set to most. Or you could help support us one of these ways, which is we have Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Revolut for those of you who are out of country. There is a link in the description of the video, and in the chat over here on YouTube, that's pinned to the top. And whether you get it in the live chat or in the description of the video, you just click on it and you can add any amount you want. And you can use just a credit or debit card. You don't have to have a payment app. But we solely rely on donations from all of you to keep our channel running. And because we're a small channel, we need your help in that aspect. So we would very much appreciate any and all help y'all can give. If you don't have a subscription to the channel already, that little QR code at the top of the screen there onto the right, Murder by Maestro made us very kindly. If you scan that and you have an iPhone, because iPhones don't let you just buy your membership on your phone like Androids do. So if you have an iPhone, you can scan that code. You can put me on the TV and scan that code, and it'll bring you right to buying your membership for the channel. Because Maestro find that workaround for us, and we very much appreciate Maestro for making that for us, because I wouldn't have known how to do that. That was a great freaking workaround. So they're still, as of right now, with the Adelson stuff, in the middle of doing jury selection. As of right now, half of the people they have called have made it to sort of the next round of this jury selection period. As of 12, hold on, let me refresh it here, because this is the live blog that's going to tell us what is going on with it. Let me see, refresh here. Let's see. 12:52, I think, was the last thing that I can see, but let me click on Hoffman's thing and see what it says. Why is it not working? Hold on one second, guys. Give me 1 second. Sorry, y'all. I really had to use the bathroom break. I kid you not. So, Gloria, thank you for being a member, my friend. All right. So we have at last one I see is 12:52, and it says taking a break so that others may have a turn. By my count, they struck about half the potential jurors so far. So that means half of them have already been struck out of the case. But that still puts them on good footing. If they get 20 finalists from each panel, that's 100 plus by the time Thursday rolls around. You need 12, obviously, plus alternates. So that was a little while ago. It says the first round of jury selection in the Adelson trial is complete. By my rough count, more than 25 jurors advanced from the first 50. A good start. Another 50 will be brought in this afternoon. So they've dismissed a bunch of jurors. They've kept a bunch of jurors. So, I mean, I don't think that they're going to get all the jury today, obviously. But I think there's a good chance that we will see, let's see, we will see a jury probably seated by at least Thursday. If not tomorrow, I think at least by Thursday morning that we will have a jury seated and we'll be ready to rock and roll. Because if they're about half of them are advancing to the next round, that tells me that they are going to be able to seat a jury in Tallahassee. So maybe the judge was right, you know, in saying, no, you got to try to seat them in Tallahassee before we try to a change of venue. It's promising that at least half of them are advancing. So I guess we'll find out more later on to see if they can seat. I'd say they probably seat a quarter to not a half of the jury today. And then maybe another quarter to half tomorrow. And then maybe by Thursday morning, they'd be done with it. We'll see. It would be nice to start the trial, like the, you know, openings and all that stuff before the weekend starts. But you never know. So we're gonna attempt to cross our fingers and say, hey, let's hope that we get the full jury by Thursday. That way we can keep this rolling and we start going with this case, because there are so many things in the Adelson case I want to hear, especially with Donna. It's like, how much of this was her idea? And I guess, you know, some of their best witnesses are the hitmen, which is interesting to say the least. At least that's what the prosecution says their best witnesses are. They didn't say how many they specifically wanted. I would guess you'd probably want at least 16. You get 12 plus alternates. If you have to dismiss any jurors, you need alternates to fill it up. So at least 16, I would think. Sometimes in high profile cases, they want a couple more, but you never know. We'll cross our fingers and hope that they definitely get enough that they don't have to dismiss jurors like they did in Karen Reed's first trial and then almost run out of alternates. You don't want to run out of alternates, that's for sure. So I'm thinking probably 16, if not a couple more, but it depends on, you know, what the prosecution and defense agreed upon for a number. And I haven't heard a very specific number on how many they want yet. They might decide when they get to 15 or 16 that it's enough. I don't know. We'll find out. But I guess for now, I'm going to wrap this up because I'm starving like a hostage and I need to go eat lunch for sure. And we're not going to see any movement on any, you know, openings or anything today. So we will pick this up tomorrow morning or maybe tonight. Maybe we'll do like a live stream later on tonight. We'll see how the rest of the day goes, because there's some of you who don't get to watch during the day. You only have the nighttime. And so I want to switch it up a little. I want to take a couple days that I do daytime and a couple of days that I do nighttime and see sort of what the difference is in that aspect. So maybe we'll do like an impromptu later. We'll see how it goes. I'll keep you guys updated on how I'm feeling. So I've stuck it out thus far. Pretty good, 3 hours and 22 minutes in. So we'll see. All right. Again, I love your stinking faces, per usual, as I always do. If you would like to donate to the channel or help us along, you can hit the like button, the subscribe button. Those are free to do. It's free to hit the subscribe button. That is totally free. You don't have to hit this. There's no money involved in just subscribing to the channel, or sharing the channel or hitting the like button. Those things are all very much free. If you'd like to help support the channel in monetary ways, there's these ways, and they're always in the description of the videos. They're on the front of the YouTube. We have wish lists. I also need to upgrade those because school's coming soon for the littles, and my kiddo needs definitely some school clothes. Thankfully, they don't ask for a ton of supplies. I want to know. Tell me in the comments, how many of you parents have gotten ridiculous school lists of all of the absurd things that your children are asked to bring to school this year? Because thankfully, our district is very little on the school supplies. It's really just getting them new clothes and shoes that is going to break the bank. But I love y'all stinking faces, and maybe I'll see y'all later, but definitely we'll see y'all in the morning. Everybody have an amazing day. Bye.